Okay, so I'd like to call the November 20th, 2024 regular meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission at 2:35 p.m. We are meeting in the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors of our old chambers and on Zoom for the public. At this point, the clerk will explain how both written and spoken public comments can be made by attendees for the meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chair. For members of the public, the instructions on how to participate may be found on the published agenda. These instructions provide information on how to submit written comments and how to participate on Zoom.
Thank you. We'll now proceed to item 1. Roll call, please.
Present.
Here.
Here. Present.
Present.
Vice Chair.
Here. And may I ask if alternate Noelia Corzo is also on the line? Okay. We'll now move on to item 2, an open public comment for items not on the agenda and the consent agenda. Please note that LAFCo meetings are a limited public forum and all public comment must relate to something that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. If comments do not relate to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, we will stop the comment and move on to the next speaker. County attorney will assist us in identifying comments that are not related to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Madam Clerk, would you please proceed?
Thank you. I will first call upon members on Zoom participants, followed by in person. On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or *9 if you are calling by phone to indicate your desire to speak. At this time, we did not receive any written comments not on the agenda, and we currently do not have any virtual hands raised on Zoom or in chambers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now close public comment for items not on the agenda or the consent agenda. We will now move on to item 3, consent agenda. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 items on the consent agenda. Are there any public comments at this time?
There are no public comments.
Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Yes.
Chair, I request a change to the minutes. This is on page 6. It says Commissioner Draper requested that the public benefits be provided by the public agency instead of operating like a for-profit developer. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll go ahead and just take a.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner Jane Crowley. Commissioner Bigstick.
Aye.
Commissioner Rohrbach.
Yes.
Commissioner Andrew.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Jane Crowley.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mueller.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Motion.
Are there any other items to discuss regarding the consent agenda?
No, but I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Slater Carter, seconded by Jane Crowley, seconded by Commissioner Rohrbach. Commissioner Bigstick.
Aye.
Commissioner Rohrbach.
Yes.
Commissioner Draper.
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Jane Crowley.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mueller.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item number 4, appointment of the chair and vice chair for 2025. Mr. Bartoli.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mueller. Yes, the item before you for item number 4 is the appointment of the chair and vice chair for 2025 for LAFCo. It's the commission's practice to appoint the chair and vice chair at the last meeting of the calendar year for the upcoming year. And the custom has been that those positions rotate by type of commissioner membership in the following order: county, city, public, and special district member. If the commission desires to follow that traditional rotation of the current vice chair being a county member, Supervisor Mueller, Commissioner Mueller, it would be appropriate then to appoint Commissioner Mueller as chair. Continuing the tradition rotation prescribed would be a city member would be appointed as vice chair. However, for the upcoming year for 2025, LAFCo will have 2 new regular city members and a new alternate city member as well. The commission may direct staff to either place the appointment of the vice chair at a later meeting, potentially the January 15th, 2025 meeting, if there's a desire to keep the current rotation, or alternatively, the commission can appoint a different member type, either a special district or a public member for vice chair for this year. And so by that, LAFCo staff recommends that by motion, the commission appoint a chair and then provide direction or take action regarding the appointments of the vice chair position.
Thank you, Mr. Bartoli. Is there any questions from the commission? Okay, are there any public comment?
There are no virtual hands.
Okay, are there any motions?
I'll move appointing Commissioner Mueller to the chair.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Bigstick, seconded by Commissioner Warbach. Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter, Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Warbach,
Yes.
Vice Chair Mueller.
Yes,
Thank you, Vice Chair. Motion carries.
thank you very much, colleagues. Are there any other motions? Commissioner Draper.
I'm going to recommend that we consider for this time only a different rotation and think of it over an 8-year period. It takes a while to learn what's going on, and it's a big steep learning curve, and it would be hard, I think, for a very new city person to be vice chair and then chair. So I'm recommending that the next vice chair be the special district representative, and I'd be recommending that it be Virginia Crowley Chang, so that but over an 8-year period, it will still be 2 city, 2 county, 2 public, 2 special district, and we just pick it up from there. So that would be my recommendation for this sequence only.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
I'm gonna agree with that and take that as a motion. May I have a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, can we go ahead and vote?
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner.
A question on the motion. Is there a nomination of a specific person?
Jane Corrali.
Thank
was in the
you,
motion.
sir.
Thank you. I'll repeat the motion. That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner Slater Carter, Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Warbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mueller.
I think Commissioner Corzo has joined us.
Thank you. I will add. Vice Chair Mueller.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair.
Can-
Motion-
can we take Commissioner Corzo's vote?
Yes. Currently nominated.
She is, so let's figure this out. She says she needs to be upgraded to a panelist. Supervisor, her hand is now raised, so you can have, or so you're able to identify her.
Thank
Commissioner,
I am present and I vote yes.
thank you.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to item 4. At this time, item 5. At this time, I need to go ahead and recuse from the item as I appeared on this item in front of the Coastal Commission and advocated for the county's position on this. For that reason, I'm going to go ahead now and turn the meeting over to our former chair, Draper. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to item 5, which is a request for reconsideration of LAFCO file number 24-8, proposed sphere of influence amendment for the county service area 11, CSA 11, and annexation of CSA 11 of the Pescadero Middle High School located at 350 and 3560 Butano Cutoff, APN 087 053010. There is a staff report, and please, if you would.
Thank you, Commissioner Draper. We go to the next slide, please. So at the September 18th, 2024 LAFCo Commission meeting, the commission heard proposal of annexation and a sphere of influence amendment, and those for the annexation of CSA 11 of the Pescadero Middle and High School site. Those resolutions were adopted by the commission. Those are LAFCO resolutions 1326 for the sphere of influence amendment and 1327 for the annexation. The commission's approval also waived the protest proceedings under the appropriate government code. And the only party that is capable of submitting written protests under this proposal is the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District as the property owner of the middle and high school site. On October 18th, 2024, the San Mateo County Farm Bureau submitted a letter requesting reconsideration of those two resolutions under the appropriate government code section. Reconsideration, as stated in state law, states that requires new or different facts that could not have been presented previously and are claimed to warrant reconsideration. The Farm Bureau letter provides 7 contentions. LAFCO staff has reviewed those contentions, and in the staff report and in the presentation today, we'll talk about those, but staff reports that none of those represents new information that was not available to the commission when it made its decision at the September 18th meeting. The information submitted in the request for reconsideration does not alter or change the sphere of influence determination and factors that were the basis of the commission's approval of the annexation and the sphere of influence amendment for County Service Area 11. There has been several public comments that have been received that are part of either the packet or have been provided to the commissioners at the dais, and there are copies for the public out at the back where the other presentations are. Some of those public comments include members of the community that are in support or of the denial of the reconsideration. Some are in support of the reconsideration request. We've also received a letter from the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council in support of the CSA 11 annexation, along with a letter from the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District. On the next slide, I'll briefly talk about the one of the several items of contention that were part of the Farm Bureau's request for reconsideration. The first is the area where the fire station that's part of the CSA 11 project. There's a fire station construction, and there's the annexation and the construction of the water line to the Unified School District site. There's a contention that the fire station location that's on the school site is being actively farmed. LAFCO's response to that is the school and the county have stated the land is inactive, but this outcome of the question does not necessarily affect the sphere of influence update or the annexation decision that the commission made. As a condition of the fire station approval that was done by the Coastal Commission, the county was required to mitigate that loss of agricultural land. And this contention was discussed at the September 18th LAFCO hearing and does not represent new or different facts. The LAFCO staff analysis as part of that September hearing recommended that the annexation be approved, and that information was based on information provided by the County of San Mateo that discussed in their mitigated negative declaration, which was certified by the county and then reviewed by the California Coastal Commission, that the land was inactive. At the September meeting, there were several public speakers that spoke at which those resolutions were adopted. In particular, the letter from the Farm Bureau from Peter Tahn contends that this issue was raised both at that September meeting and to the county at previous meetings. In September in September LAFCO meeting, Bridget Jett and BJ Burns also gave public comment at which they asserted the area of the fire station that's proposed to be farmed is currently being utilized. This dispute over whether the land is being farmed in recent years was therefore before the commission at the September 18th meeting. and does not present new facts in the request for reconsideration. As required by law, because those issues were before of us, LAFCo staff recommends that this not be a point for reconsideration, and that these areas are also been disputed, it seems like, as far back as 2016, or perhaps even further back. In item number 2, on the next slide,
I have a question though. The school district has said, I believe, that they do not have a contract with anybody to farm that. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, so if somebody is throwing out a few seeds and stuff grows, that would be without the contract. Is that correct?
To my understanding. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The second point of contention is regarding that their resolutions were not passed unanimously. There is a clerical error on both resolutions 1326 and 1327 with respect to Commissioner Chang's Corrali's voice votes on the item. The draft meeting minutes, which were just adopted earlier in this meeting at the September 18th meeting, accurately reflects that no vote on those two resolutions. And Government Code Section 5683 provides that staff, particularly the executive officer, is capable of correcting those errors and is not grounds for a request for reconsideration by the commission. The mistake was inadvertently made and would only be corrected through the approval of the minutes meeting by the commission. And also, as the annexation, the Spirit of Influence Amendment had not been recorded, the LAFCo process has not been completed. So again, those are not, staff's determination that those are not grounds to approve the request for reconsideration. Item number 3 on the next slide is regarding omitting findings and oversimplifying reports regarding the CSA 11 aquifer being in overdraft. The staff report for LAFCo file 2408 summarizes the finding from what is known as the Todd groundwater report. The full Todd groundwater report was also an attachment to the application from the county and included in the LAFCo staff report that was before the commission at the September 18th meeting. The staff report discussed the history of CSA 11, including information regarding the aquifer that supports that CSA 11 is in fact in overdraft. The report also states that there were several annexations in the 1990s and 2000s to CSA 11, including the current fire station location at Pescadero Road. A more extensive discussion of that report, the Todd groundwater report, was had in the municipal service review for CSA 11 that was adopted by the commission in 2022. And as noted in both the staff report and the MSR, the Todd groundwater report evaluated the potential connection of the new fire station and the Pescadero Middle and High School properties to the CSA 11 water system. As stated in the staff in the application from the county has explored several different locations for the fire station within the Pescadero community and had chosen to locate the new fire station at the Pescadero Middle and High School site. Due diligence was done on that piece of property regarding an on-site well for the property, but it was determined that a new well would not support the fire station. And as such, the County Board of Supervisors, acting as the governing body of CSA 11, voted to apply for annexation of the school property to CSA 11. The county provided sufficient information regarding the history of the well on the school property, proposed development of the fire station, and the impacts of these new connections on CSA 11 for the LAFCo Commission to approve the annexation and the Sphere of Influence Amendment. LAFCO staff therefore recommends that the Commission disapprove the request for reconsideration on its grounds, as it does not present new or different facts that were not previously presented or warranted by the Commission. Item 4 on the next slide discusses that the LAFCO staff report omitted facts regarding groundwater recharge, that it's dependent on agricultural activity, and that agricultural activity should be preserved to recharge the CSA 11 aquifer. LAFCO's response is that the Farm Bureau does not provide any new facts on groundwater recharge rates. The footnote that's cited in the Farm Bureau's letter from Mr. Peter Ton are letters to LAFCO, refers to LAFCO's own staff reports. And so the issues of groundwater recharging in the Pescadero community is largely within the purview of the CSA 11 governing body, which is the Board of Supervisors, and is largely outside of the scope of the reviewing of this particular annexation and sphere of influence proposal. From what staff is inferring regarding this contention, is it appears that the Farm Bureau would request LAFCo conduct its own specific studies in hopes that it would be finding evidence in support of the Farm Bureau's position. But as LAFCo law states, it's the burden of the person requesting reconsideration to state how new or different facts or claims are warranted, not that new or different facts should be created and developed through different reports. Item 5 is that the board packet omitted further studies regarding the evaluation of water supply. The County of San Mateo is the operator of CSA 11 and submitted an application to LAFCo for the annexation of the Pescadero Middle High School site. La Honda Pescadero Unified School District is the property owner and submitted a statement of support of that annexation to LAFCo. LAFCo is not really obliged or required to prepare or provide additional studies as an alternative water supply for the school. And the request for reconsideration did not include any additional analysis regarding water supply at the school property from the Farm Bureau. And again, going back to the request that the information needs to be provided by the person or the entity requesting reconsideration, not that they wish to have reports created as part of that. Item number 6 is the contention regarding the notice for the 2018, the September 18, 2024 LAFCo hearing was insufficient. The affected territory for the sphere of influence and annexation is limited to just the school site at 350-360 Butano Cutoff in Pescadero. The landowner within the affected district is only the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District. It is uninhabited per LAFCo laws. There are no registered voters residing at that piece of property. In line with LAFCo law, notice was sent out to property owners and residents within 300 feet of the property, but the 300 feet is not the affected area. The affected area is specific to the school. LAFCo recommends that the commission disapprove the request for reconsideration regarding this item, as it does not present new or different facts, which warrants reconsideration, merely an assertion that LAFCO should have extended notification in a manner not required by LAFCo law. On the next slide, regarding this particular issue, there is a timeline that summarizes the number of actions that have occurred with either the fire station project or the CSA 11 annexation project. This was summarized from staff reports that were provided to LAFCO as part of the application by the county. Starting back in 2015, there was a discussion about the Pescadero Fire Steering Committee about the location of where that fire station should be located. In 2016, there's a discussion about those particular sites, and ultimately the county selects the school site as the preferred location for the fire station. In 2019, there was a test well that's drilled at the school for the fire station where it's determined that the water quality is not sufficient for that development. In 2022, LAFCO adopts an MSR for CSA 11, which was also presented to the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council at that time, along with the county preparing the water budget for a future annexation. And then in 2022, the county took a number of public steps, whether they presented it to county bodies or other entities regarding both the fire station and the CSA 11 annexation project. And then in 2023, the Coastal Commission ultimately heard this particular item. So there was a number of times that there was public input either received by the county or county staff, or there were public processes that occurred for the construction of this fire station and the potential future annexation of CSA 11 of the school district site. The last point on the next slide is item 7, that the Farm Bureau opposes waiver of the protest proceedings and requests that the annexation be subject to the vote of the CSA 11 community. The landowner, the La Honda Pescadero Unified School District, both the acronym has one committee piece, received written notice of the sphere of influence and annexation. La Honda Pescadero Unified School District provide a written statement to LAFCO supporting the annexation and consenting to it. The territory is uninhabited per LAFCO law, and there are no registered voters. And all criteria necessary for waiving the protest proceedings were met. Because on LAFCO law, the affected territory is of any change or reorganization is the specific area that is proposed to change, in this case, an annexation of one particular parcel. So the affected territory, again, is just the school site. We notice 300 feet around the school site, and certainly we'll take public comment to the commission in consideration when we look at these factors, but for a specific need to the mechanics of the protest proceedings, the only parcel, the only property owner that could protest the proceedings is the school district. So with that, therefore, LAFCo recommends that the commission disapprove the request for reconsideration on the grounds. As again, no new or different facts could have been presented regarding this item, which warrants reconsideration. So on the next slide, staff's recommendation is to open the public hearing and accept public comment. And then by resolution, disapprove the request for reconsideration for LAFCO file 24-08. Consideration of LAFCO file 24-08, proposed sphere of influence amendment for the County Service Area 11 and annexation by County Service Area 11 at the Pescadero Middle High School site located 350-360 Butte Cutoff in Pescadero. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Before we move forward, because we have some new people in the audience, I want to just talk about procedure a little bit. As you've heard, we call the item. So this is item 5, and I did that. And then staff gives a presentation. And we have a very thick amount of papers of background information that we have already read and are available to you in the back. Now we're going to have an opportunity for the commission to ask staff questions. And then I'm going to open the public hearing, and people can speak on Zoom or here. Now we know because of the letters that there are differences of opinion, but I want to let everybody know that you get 2 minutes to speak, and everybody has to respect each other. And sometimes that's hard to do. So just take a deep breath, and because if people do start disrespecting each other, I've done it in the past, I will be cutting you off. So I just want you to know in advance, we all respect each other. We can disagree with each other, but we respect each other. So then as you will see the 2-minute thing coming down, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then there'll be an end. And sometimes people get long-winded, and I'll let you go a few seconds longer, but then we need to move on to the next speaker. As there are a lot of people here, how many people, if you could raise your hand, intend to speak on this item? 10. And if you have not, please come up and fill out a card for the clerk. Thank you. And there might be others that are present. Once we hear the speakers, then we're going to close the public hearing. Then we're going to bring it back to the commission, and then the commission can make comments, and then we're going to take a motion. So with that, I'm going to ask the commission if there's any commissioners that have questions of staff at this time. Okay, yes.
Thank you, Catherine Slater Carter. Is there an amended water report for this change in the MSR on water supply, groundwater recharge, on the aquifer and the drought conditions?
In the MSR and in the application to LAFCo from the county, the Todd report from 2022 is the most recent report. So the county has not provided anything more recent than that.
Okay, and that was done by an independent agency?
That was done for a consultant for the county. And that did include, the scope of work also included the potential of annexing the high school site and the creation of the development of the fire station at the high school site and what that water use would be.
Thank you.
I have a question. Could you go back to the slide with the timeline, please? Thank you. So this has almost been a 10-year process is what I see here. And so there's been a lot of community involvement looking at sort of 2 different tracks of things. One is an adequate fire service And we've been focusing on the fire station, but it also includes, I think, 5 or 6 new fire hydrants, all to provide better fire services to the community. And then there's the drinking water aspect that is present. And that's probably been going on a lot longer than 10 years, but it has been studied. So there have been many public meetings throughout, and we got a letter from the Farm Bureau throughout that would be within this area to bringing up issues of their concerns. So they have, as far as we know, they've participated at some points during this timeline. Is that correct?
That is correct. As an one of the references in the staff report from the county that was brought to the Board of Supervisors is that the county actually hosted or held a meeting with the Farm Bureau on this particular issue of the fire station.
Okay.
The Farm Bureau also provided comments because it was an attachment to that staff report that I'm referencing from 2022. The Farm Bureau submitted a comment letter on the application to the Board of Supervisors, to the county, when they heard the staff report for both the application for annexation, the local coastal program amendments that were part of the fire station, and other permits that were related to this project.
Okay, thank you. I'm now going to open the public hearing.
If I may, through the chair,
Yes,
we also have the Peter Ton is here. He is the representative of the Farm Bureau. In past requests for reconsideration, we've allowed both the person making the request for reconsideration and then the applicant time to make a presentation. And that's typically been somewhere in the range of 5 to 10 minutes.
that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yes,
I do have a brief question that
Sure.
occurred to me, if I may.
sure, go ahead.
And I am moved by some of the discussions around water on both sides of the equation, of course. But when the public hearing begins, I may ask the county for some just additional information to understand better what that looks like on the ground. But I wanted to ask, what's the purview of LAFCo versus the planning process that has led up to this moment with LAFCO? What's in our scope? I think there's been curiosity around, well, could we necessitate a study into water if we wanted to? But what's that versus planning process that has gotten us here? Thank you.
In this particular instance, we somewhat have a limited scope. We have an application, the commission has an application before them that's specific to a change of governance boundaries and through the sphere of influence and the annexation of the parcel into CSA 11. The larger issues kind of groundwater, of the future of water within Pescadero and that aquifer that is an overdraft. We discussed, the commission may remember, at the 2022 meeting as part of the MSR, kind of where it is a little bit broader, where we can make recommendations to the county or to other entities that we feel like this should an area that deserves additional attention, that they're reserved, that we need additional work on. And we made recommendations within that report that talked about that the county should look at how the aquifer or how water will be provided to CSA 11 customers beyond kind of the time frame that the Todd report talks about, or if there is additional development, how will the county and CSA 11 handle that? And that was really within the confines of that MSR, of a larger kind of picture where we can make those recommendations. But we have a limited purview about what recommendations and areas that we could make conditions of approvals on within the confines of an application that's before us. The county has submitted sufficient information to bring the application to the commission.
Rob, you need to speak closer to the
Thank you.
mic. Thanks.
They've submitted sufficient information so that the commission can make a decision and determination on the proposal that was in front of the commission at the time in September. The LAFCo really cannot ask for additional studies on alternative proposals, such as looking at what groundwater looks like, because that is a groundwater on the site or pulling from a creek or other alternative potentials, because that really is a purview and a question of the County Board of Supervisors as the governing body of CSA 11. The county approved the application to LAFCo. The county determined that this was the best course of action for both the school and the construction of the fire station. So those discussions about whether or not this is the right direction for this project, that is really a county question, and the county has voted and answered that question by submitting the LAFCO application.
I appreciate that clarity. If I may, just to dovetail on the spirit of the chair from earlier, it might be advantageous, especially given we have an audience who is not accustomed to LAFCO when it comes to our acronyms: County Service Area or CSA, MSR, Municipal Service Review, SOI or Sphere of Influence, to every so often speak them in full, just so that folks are having a full understanding of our process.
Thank you for that reminder. We have been too much into the word of soup of love letters here, so I appreciate that.
So in that spirit, I'm going to say that this application has many different decision makers. The first is a land use decision. We're not the land use decision makers. That's the county. And so they have already made that decision as to where they think the station should go. And so it's on the school site. They are also the ones that lead the water decisions as well as the elected body. But there are other responsible agencies. So the Coastal Commission is one of those, because this is in a coastal area. And so they had to review it and add it on conditions. We're also one of those responsible agencies, and we have a small piece of this big puzzle. And that is, should there be an annexation of the service area for the water? That's our purview. So there are going to be many issues, but we have a particular purview, not the whole thing. So I just wanted to make sure that people understood that we have a very particular role that we are looking at. With that, I am going to open it up to the person who has requested, or the representative for the Farm Bureau, Peter Ton, who is the one asking for reconsideration, and I will provide you 5 minutes. No. There it goes.
Thank you. Third time's a charm. Thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity to speak. Mr. Bartoli for a uploaded presentation. I have to warn you that my presentation is close to 10 minutes. So
Speak fast, keep going.
will do. My name is Peter Tan. I'm the principal attorney at Town Office. I've been an environmental attorney.
Can I hear him? I can't hear him. I can't hear whoever's speaking. Nor can I.
Put the mic closer to closer to the mic.
Mr. Bartoli, the slides are out of order. Could you please move to the first slide, which is headlined as condemnation?
Still can't hear him.
As we're getting this settled, I have a procedural question. We now realize that Katie Martin is on a Zoom. Is she on as a participant, a panel? So that means that Commissioner Catherine Slater would.
At the time the roll was called, Fisher wasn't present, I think.
No, don't. No, don't do that.
I'm confused. Don't do what?
Don't,
I want to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know whether I was being heard. I just want to make a few comments that I have kind of, because I read the thing, and I don't know what the protocol is, but let Catherine stay on and I'll just be a part of the,
Public.
I want to watch it, and if I have a comment, I'll just make a comment. Is that okay, Tim?
Okay, yes. And so you'll be just a member of the public
Kind of, yeah.
and not a commissioner today?
Yeah.
Or panelist. Okay. Sorry, just so that everybody knows, we have different categories of representation, and I'm just sorting through to make sure that we've got the
Right.
the right mix. Okay, we haven't started your time because we've had a few things. So please begin and speak close to the mic.
Thank you. Will do. I appreciate that. The Farm Bureau and the Commission have a common mission. The Farm Bureau is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting and preserving farming in San Mateo County. It acts in the belief that farming brings economic and environmental benefits to all residents of the county. Similarly, the Quincy-Knox-Pittsburgh Act charges the Commission with discouraging urban sprawl, preserving open space and prime agricultural lands, and actively guide development away from prime agriculture. And that's really the mindset that the Farm Bureau brings to it. I want to point out in the upper right hand corner, that's the Farm Bureau's logo. In the lower right hand corner, the picture of the farmer on the tractor is actually next slide, please. How we got here. This goes over the resolutions and requests, but since Mr. Bartoli covered this time, I think we can move on to the next slide. Hello? Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Much better.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. We want to get the tech right. The Farm Bureau's request. The Farm Bureau is requesting that the commission vacate and renotice the resolutions with corrected information, condition future approvals on balanced integrated community solutions that prioritize clean water for the school, untying it from the fire station development, prioritize sustainable aquifers, and conserve prime agricultural land. Also requests that the commission rescind waiver of protest proceedings to allow for a more democratic process. Next slide, please. Now, the commission has broad authority to reconsider its own resolutions, and I'll come back to this point. As a threshold matter, as Mr. Bartoli stated, the request must state the modification of the resolution being requested, which was done. The request includes red line comments in the original resolutions that were signed. And what new different facts could have been presented previously deserve reconsideration. I want to stress that in this particular case, the ability to present facts, whether new or different, is really tied to the issue of notice and community engagement. The Farm Bureau had very little opportunity to present its view of things, and when referencing the reports that were contained in the LAFCo staff packets, certain facts become highlighted at the cost of other facts, and we consider that to be a different point of view that should be considered. The Farm Bureau's request is based on 4 categories of information: incorrect information, the omissions on water supply, insufficient notice to stakeholders, and issue of waiver of authority proceedings. Once a request is submitted, the commission actually has no limitation on its authority to review its own decisions. This is not a review of a decision from one body to another. It's a reconsideration of your own decision. And so the decision need not be binary. It need not be yes, no, pass, fail. The commission has the authority to reject or accept the request as is, that is true, but it also can accept it with its own modifications upon considering the matter. Slide, please. Now, this slide really speaks to the incorrect information that was contained in the resolutions and in the staff packet as well. Mr. Bartoli did go over some of these corrections, but we have a difference in opinion of whether they are dispositive or not. And it's up to the commission to weigh the appropriate value. The signed resolutions mischaracterize the property as inactive land, that it has not been in agricultural use for at least 8 years, and the crops present there were the result of ruderal vegetation, which is grown from waste, which is incorrect. It is true that this fact was contested at the September 18th hearing. We heard from public members that said they observed the crops there and they knew the farmer. We also had folks from the county say that the land had not been farmed. Whatever the case, when the signed resolutions were actually signed, the change was not made. So it was still shown as the farm, as the property being inactive and not being in use for 8 years. This is one of the reasons why the request is required to make that correction. With the request, the Farm Bureau obtained a declaration from the farmer who farms the land and who said he has farmed the land since 2005, almost 20 years, with rosemary, peas, and fava bean crop. The issue of whether the farmer had a lease kind of begs the issue of whether he had authority to farm on the land. It may be true he didn't have a written lease, but he may have had oral authority. It's just not credible that the farmer had farmed there for 20 years and the school didn't know about it or authorize it. The resolution also contains errors in the commission vote. Respectfully, Commissioner Chang Farali voted no on the resolution to let the community take a breath and get informed. Staff explained this was an error and we're not pointing the finger, but this was the version that was circulated to the public. And it creates the wrong impression that the vote was unanimous and could have the effect of chilling participation from those who would otherwise be detractors. The last issue really relates to the water supply issue. So let's go ahead and skip to the next slide, please. Thank you. The CSA is in overdraft. Mr. Bartoli explained what this meant. Overdraft means pumping that exceeds sustainable yield. The resolutions acknowledge the aquifer overdraft, but downplay the rate of decline and overstate the amount of supply. We present these facts. Groundwater has been in decline since 1992. The current depletion rate is a half a foot lowering of the aquifer per year. The additional connection of the school and the firehouse would speed decline by 21 years. And I have these asterisks because these are actually conservative estimates based on the county reports. There have been a lot of discussion about digging deeper wells in the CSA 11 aquifer. And I want to stress that this is not a fix. Deeper wells do not prevent overdraft and they don't create supply. In fact, according to the county's consultant, deeper wells in CSA 11 can lead to other risks: seawater intrusion, depletion of flow in Butano Creek, and equipment damage that could render wells inoperable. Next slide, please. Conserving farmland recharges the aquifer. Groundwater recharging the aquifer is dependent solely on rain and return irrigation flows from farming. The Todd report said there are 520 acres of cropland left in the area. The cropland uses surface water from south of Butano Ridge and does not take from the groundwater. The Todd report states that the greatest risk to CSA 11 yield would be if cropland goes out of production. This awareness should prompt the commission to make decisions that conserve, not convert agricultural farmland. The 2-to-1 mitigation, I want to be clear, does not replace lost agricultural farmland. The Farm Bureau wants to be clear about that. Once farmland is lost, it's usually lost forever. The mitigation applies to protecting land from being converted, but does not add new land. Slide, please. What are the sustainable solutions? The Farm Bureau requests prioritizing the school over the development and long-term solutions over short-term solutions. This would require separating the school from this fire station project and prioritizing the school water supply. This is something that we've been hearing from the CSA 11 community too. Clean water for the school does not depend on the fire station. It can get clean water sooner. In fact, the permit timeline, the 10-year permit timeline that was posted in the prior presentation shows the timeline for the fire station development. And it said very little about the school water project. The Farm Bureau has recently discovered that state money will be used to build pipeline. The money comes from the SAFER program from the State Water Resources Control Board. This program is built around the human right to water, something that was pioneered by now State Board member Laurel Firestone. These funds are for the school. They're not for the fire station development. Holding them up or using them for the fire station development is inappropriate. And we would urge that the two projects be separated. The second step in finding a sustainable solution is accurate reporting of data and finding sustainable sources of water that benefits all communities of interest. We've listed a couple of sources that we've discovered in the meantime. The Pescadero Water System Study, which was conducted at the school, which describes the aquifer under which the school draws its water as being shallow and overlain with unconfined soils, which can lead to contamination problems, including the nitrate problems. This is especially true in times of drought where the nitrate hits were above MCLs. We also point out the California Drinking Water Watch, which contains monthly sampling of the school for nitrate contamination and other contaminants. It is true that during 2015 to 2017, there were hits during those drought years. Since then, the maximum contaminant level has been below the actual MCL. So that's over 100 or nearly 100 monthly samples. However, we also need to leverage community knowledge, and that comes from all communities. The school, for one, has observed that despite the toxics being below MCLs, the water is unsuitable because the water is brown and dirty. We should take that as truth. But in doing so, we should be looking for solutions for those particular truths. The Farm Bureau has tremendous knowledge of the water supply in the area, having built wells in the area for decades, and believe that there is water in the actual school property. Only one well was advanced. That report was not made available to us. The CSA 11 users are also persons of knowledge. They know their system. They paid into their system since its inception, and they know the limits of the aquifer. And they also know that the system that they've been given has an extraordinarily high leak rate of 8 to 16%.
I have you now at about 10 minutes, so can we wrap it up?
Can we move on to the next slide, please? Nearby wells have to be explored regardless. The additional water supply will need to be found because of the stressed CSA 11 aquifer, and the existing water system at the school still needs to be maintained for non-potable uses. Whatever the commission decides today, we encourage that it do a belt and suspenders approach and also look at water supply at the school. Slide, please. Annexation is also unnecessary. The LAFCo has the ability to authorize a contract between CSA 11 and the school to provide water. It does not need to be in the sphere of influence, particularly if there's a public health threat. It could do this in short order, provided the government code sections there. Next slide, please. Reconsideration, we believe is insufficient because it only reached 300 feet within the school. It did not reach any CSA 11 user. Not a single CSA 11 user was given notice. The Farm Bureau had went door to door and collected signatures from 51 of the 101 total CSA connections, each of whom asked for petition to reconsider as well. Next slide, please. Now, we believe that there's a legal dispute over whether waiver of authority proceedings is appropriate. But first, I want to note that the LAFCo has discretion to waive, whether or not to waive proceedings. That's within your power. The second is a waiver request can only be met if 3 requirements are met. One is notice must be mailed within the affected territory, which includes landowners within 300 feet. 2, the mailed notice must state that the commission will waive notice if no written opposition is received. 3, no written opposition is in fact received. Assuming that CSA 11 is not within the affected territory, the notice did not contain the subparagraph B warning, and it did not, and it actually did receive a protest letter. So those requirements are not met. Next slide, please. That is the LAFCO's notice letter, which does not contain a warning. Next slide, please. And this is a protest letter that was filed from a homeowner from within 300 feet of the school. Next slide, please. And I promise you that is my last slide, and I will end with a thank you for considering Fund Bureau's request.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Rob, who is the speaker for the applicant? I think she's coming. Nope. Here we are. All right. I will give you 10 minutes as well, if you need it. And if you could identify yourself and proceed, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Mike Schaller, Senior Planner with San Mateo County Planning Department. I just want to start, my comments will be brief. I think that the LAFCo report summarizes the issues, the county position on the issues very well, and also your opening comments about LAFCo's authority also I think is relevant. The one issue I would, or the one point I would like to make with regards to the land use, as you pointed out, Board of Supervisors or the duly elected representatives of San Mateo County and Board of Directors for CSA 11 approved this project, both the extension of the pipeline and the placement of the fire station at that location. And that decision was confirmed by the California Coastal Commission. As you pointed out, I don't believe it's within LAFCO's authority to supersede that authority that was granted, decisions made by the Board of Supervisors.
Commissioners, I will address one point that was brought up by the previous speaker that again is not really germane to LAFCO's consideration of the annexation, but I think is worth addressing, which is that the remark that contaminants have not exceeded the maximum contaminant levels since 2017, according to the water boards. After 2014, when the school water system first exceeded the MCL levels for nitrates and when it was cited, subsequently, there was indeed a decrease in those contaminants. However, the contaminants then increased again. And so there was there were further spikes. Again, the water boards cited the school water system for that reason. And in addition to exceeding the MCLs, because of the substandard construction of the well, according to the water boards, and the fact of the recurrence of the MCLs, they deem the Pescadero coastal water system very vulnerable. And so they chose to push the project and support the project to extend CSA 11 to the school and to allocate state resources to that effect. So I just wanted to.
All right, now we're going to go to public, and the clerk will call the speaker and then please come up. And I guess we're using the handheld mic because we have 2 people on Zoom. speak closely to the mic, pretend you're a rock star or something, and then speak, and you will have 2 minutes. So, Madam Clerk, if you will,
Thank you. We will first call upon speakers on Zoom, and there are 4 virtual hands raised.
And if I may, through the chair, if there is translation, might I suggest that we allow additional time for that translation to occur, potentially doubling the amount.
okay,
if
and I'm
translation is
looking,
needed.
I'm looking back at my translator who's going to tell me with this motion if we need more time.
Perfect.
If somebody requires a little bit more time for interpretation, not translation.
Yes, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, there are now 6 virtual hands raised. So we will begin with Dr. Patrick Horn. Mr. Horn, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm Dr. Patrick Horn, a member of the Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council. As you know, I was one of 2 PMAC members who previously requested a delay in the annexation process to allow for missing community input and clarification of key issues. Since then, PMAC has carefully considered public opinion and concerns, particularly regarding the sustainability of the aquifer and the need for additional studies and innovative solutions for long-term resilience. While recognizing these valid points, the Council also believes that annexation is the best path forward. PMAC unanimously supports the annexation and, as stated in our letter of support, urges the county to swiftly proceed. We are grateful to all community members and stakeholders for their valuable input and robust participation in this important democratic process. Thank you, and God bless Pescadero.
Thank you. Now we will call upon May go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Ofli Vico. I live in Pescadero and have a family member who is a teacher at the high school. And I'm speaking to you today as the Community Health Director of Puente, a nonprofit in Pescadero. Access to clean water is fundamental to the health, well-being, and educational success of our community's children. At present, our local school relies on water deliveries due to a contaminated well, which is an unsustainable and costly measure that limits their ability to provide a safe and reliable environment for students, teachers, and staff. Ensuring clean water access reflects our community's commitment to supporting the health, safety, and future of our children. By investing in a secure and permanent water solution through the CSA, we not only protect the health of our students and staff, but also strengthen the overall resilience and well-being of our community for years to come. The time is now to connect our local school to the community service area CSA water supply as an effective and urgent solution to this public health crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next hand raised on Zoom is Meg, Rob, and Cotton Skinner. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to make an observation that the enrollment at our high school and middle school, and as far as I know, the grade school, because they want to combine the 2 grade schools, is declining, and the future doesn't look too bright for that. Therefore, I would request that annexation for your efforts stipulate that the annexation is limited for the high school and a firehouse at such time as that may happen. Therefore, I request that one move to amend your motion as I've requested with those stipulations. And the reason being that the ground was PAD until it was acquired, I think through eminent domain and should the time come that the high school is no longer needed, that the annexation return to the original CSA 11 geography. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Deacon Holbrook. Megan, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm speaking today as a former student of Pescadero High School. I attended the high school from 2005 until 2009, and I'm a proud graduate from that school. I also spent time working at Puente during my time in high school and learned a lot about our water table, the issues we have with water in our community, and how it affects the students. From that time in 2005, when I left in 2009, it was well known around the school even then that the water was not safe to drink. While we were told that it was okay to drink from the water fountains, most of us did not. And those that did often reported having issues with their stomach, myself included. Nitrate poisoning in general can also lead to a lot of different issues, leading to developmental delay, vomiting, stomach issues, and so forth and so on. While we only have records of the last 10 years showing specifically that the water table has been bad, we can clearly see that this has been an ongoing problem that's been now going on for well over 20 years. I think it's high time that we address the fact that this is a public health crisis for the school, while also acknowledging that multiple times throughout the winter season, we lose access to our fire department. They are unable to get to us because they are also flooded in. So it is my personal commentary that we need to fix this not only for our students going forward, and also for our community, so that even during times of heavy rain, if there's a fire, that our fire department can still get to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Augustine. Ryan, go ahead.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm Ryan Augustine. I live in Pescadero, and I am an up and coming. I'll be added into and joining the PMAC board in the new year. I just wanted to speak my support for the letter that was provided by the current PMAC board to LAFCo in support of the annexation. I am also in agreement with this annexation and feel that it should be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. David Rokowski. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joanne Rokoski. I didn't have a way to change my name. At any rate, I am speaking in favor of annexation by CSA 11 of the Pescadero Middle and High School complex. And in addition, I am speaking in favor of moving forward with development of the fire station as part of this annexation. I'm a resident of the coast side, and as a resident, I understand that the water supply is limited, and I understand that the challenge that this poses to residents and agriculture. But yet I find it incredible that this rich county has not yet prioritized the needs of school students and staff for potable water. This is a public health necessity. And similarly, to run the risk of inability to control future fires by not having the fire station in a location in which they can do appropriate work with an appropriate water supply is a recipe for upcoming disaster. So I encourage and strongly encourage adoption of these recommendations and approval of the annexation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amanda Chang. Amanda, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Chang, and I am a staff member of Urban Habitat, which is a regional organization that advances environmental justice and land use justice. I was actually born and raised in San Mateo County in District 1, and I'm here in support of the annexation of CSA 11 to include both the middle and high school buildings and the fire station. This annexation will provide domestic water for the 170 plus students, as well as faculty and staff. And San Mateo County is the richest county in the nation, and yet we can't do something as basic as supply clean drinking water to our youth. And as someone earlier pointed out, enrollment is declining, but that might be because there is a real and present danger to our youth at a place where they should be safe and cared for. And this is really something that we should be ashamed of as a county, that we can't protect our youth, who are our future. And to speak of the future, to also think about the real and present danger of climate change and the way that we are going to be facing more fires. And we need to protect ourselves from those. And there are brave people who protect us from fires, and they need to be properly supplied with water as well, and be able to reach us when we need them. And as we also think about the ways of oncoming pandemics and epidemics of bird flu, for example, clean drinking water is more important now than ever, especially for our farm workers and their children who are providing us with the food that we eat on our tables. So please support the annexation of CSA 11, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Last virtual hand on Zoom is Hera Altuvan. Hera, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the commission staff, and presenters. My name is Tara Uitalwan, and I'm the Senior Engineer for the State Water Board, Division of Drinking Water, SAFER Program for Northern California. The SAFER program was created to advance sustainable drinking water solutions in California and to provide support and resources to small water systems serving disadvantaged communities. As noted in the staff's presentation of the timeline of the project, this project has been 10+ years in the making, and the LAFCo approval on the county's application for the Sphere of Influence Amendment and annexation of the school is a significant milestone in this process. Reconsideration of LAFCo File 24-08 would only further delay the project timeline by adding more years to the project. Additionally, the State Water Board is subsidizing portions of this project that address the need for safe drinking water provided to the school. Further delays on the project put the project at risk for further State Water Board resources. The State Board supports LAFCo's approval of the annexation. It is contingent for the success and expeditious completion of the project. The State Water Board acknowledges and appreciates the partnership in the community to ensure that the school, a school that serves the children in the local community, including farmers and farm workers, receives safe drinking water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now we will move on to public comments chambers, and we have received 12 speakers. First speaker is Jordan Mota.
Good afternoon, commissioners and staff, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jordan Mota. I'm a fire captain here in San Mateo County, and I'm here today representing CAL FIRE Local 2881, the labor organization that proudly represents 9,000 men and women statewide, including those assigned to the Pescadero Fire Station, those who dedicate their lives protecting our state and community from wildfires, emergencies, and natural disasters. I want to address a pressing issue that impacts not only our firefighters, but every resident of Pescadero: the urgent need for a new fire station, one that does not flood. As you know, the current fire station is located in an area prone to severe flooding during heavy rain. The recurring problem is not only inconvenient, it's a threat to public safety. When our fire station floods, it delays response times, requires movement of equipment across the county, and damages our critical equipment and engines, and disrupts our readiness of our firefighters to respond to emergencies. In a rural area like ours, where wildfire risk, medical emergencies, and severe storms are a constant reality, every second counts. Furthermore, the long-term effects of repeated flooding on infrastructure are costly. Damaged equipment, mold issues, and structural wear not only jeopardize the safety of our personnel, but require substantial financial resources from the county for repair and maintenance. Investing in a new, strategically located station is not only about addressing immediate challenges, it's about building a resilient, sustainable future for Pescadero. Additionally, proximity to the high school offers a unique opportunity to establish a strategic water network that benefits both the fire station and the school. Schools often serve as emergency shelters, and a shared infrastructure for water resources would provide an invaluable resource during natural disasters. Investing in the water infrastructure for the proposed site isn't just practical, it's essential. It ensures the new station would be fully functional from day one, and our firefighters will be equipped to respond to the wide range of emergencies that Pescadero faces. In conclusion, Pescadero residents deserve a school with clean potable water and a fire station that enhances public safety, one that does not hinder it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rita Minerva.
Thank you. I am here today as the Executive Director of Puente de la Costa Sur, a nonprofit that serves the area of Pescadero. I also live in Pescadero, and I appreciate the work that the county has done to find solutions once and for all, and I'm very grateful for the students and the parents and the school staff and the allies joining this meeting today. The students and parents and community members have expressed their need for clean water at the Coastal Commission in December in several meetings with county and state representatives, and also at the local PMAC meeting held last week. They have shown up, they have made time to share their experiences. Your vote today can provide a permanent solution to our local school, and on behalf of our organization, I urge you to please approve this project. I have said this before. I'm not proud sometimes of the way that I say it, but this situation would not have lasted decades in an affluent community. It would have been addressed in a timely manner. Our region is often forgotten. Our school district is primarily Latino. Most families and students are low income. And as you know, many are in fact farm working families. If as a county, we really care for agriculture, that includes the individuals and the families that plant and harvest in our region and their children. You know it's time. Please do what's right and be part of the solution we need in our community. Thank you.
Guadalupe Ramirez.
Mi nombre es Guadalupe. Vivo en Pescadero.
My name is Guadalupe. I live in Pescadero.
Aquí le entrego estas firmas que hemos recolectado por los padres.
So I'm going to give you all of these signatures that we've collected from the parents from the school.
126 firmas por los padres que no pueden venir a estas juntas porque siempre las hacen en hora de trabajo.
It's 126 signatures that we've collected from parents that were unable to come to this meeting because these meetings are always held at times where they can't make it.
Y estamos aquí con el corazón triste porque no es posible que lleguemos a estos extremos para pedir lo que es justo. No
And I'm here with a really heavy heart, sad heart, because I don't know how it's possible that we've gotten here to this point.
Lo que estamos pidiendo no es para nosotros, es para los niños, para el futuro del mañana.
What we're asking is really not for us, but what we're asking is just more so for the kids, for the future.
Y yo pienso que una escuela en el estado de California que no tenga agua potable limpia,
And I'm thinking like a school in the state of California not to have clean water.
yo pienso que no es justo. Y más que son de hijos de trabajadores agrícolas.
It's not right. It's not just. And more so that these are kids from farm workers.
Y lo que venimos a pedir aquí nosotros, están los niños de la escuela, que deben de venir para que sepan que es una necesidad, que ellos ahorita estar en sus clases.
So what we're asking here, and here you can see the kids from school, we ask them to come here because that way they understand what the necessity is. They actually should be in school right now.
Lo que nosotros pedimos que nos apoyen, que sigamos con el proyecto, porque necesitamos esa agua para la escuela.
What I'm asking is for support to continue with that project because what we really need is water for the school.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Rogelio Navarra.
So Mr. Rogelio, it has something written out. And so what will be presented is his version, and then he'll pass over what is written. And in this case, I will provide what's called a written translation to the rest.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Rogelio Nabor. Soy un residente de Pescadero. Tengo 3 hijos, 2 en la secundaria y una hija en la Universidad de Los Ángeles. Estoy aquí para pedirles que nos apoyen con el proyecto del agua que ya está aprobada para llevar agua a la escuela secundaria de Pescadero. ¿Por qué no es posible que estemos en uno de los condados más ricos del estado y no tenemos agua en una escuela donde cientos de niños han pasado sus tiempos estudiando? Y no solo eso, sino cuántos niños más van a seguir así sin agua. Es la razón que estamos aquí para pedirles que no cancelen el proyecto, porque queremos que agua, queremos que agua en nuestra escuela, porque el agua es indispensable para todos y no más para los niños. Yo les pregunto a las personas que están en contra que llegue el agua a la escuela. ¿A ellos en qué les afecta? Si es un proyecto que es para toda la escuela y para la comunidad. Aquí no se trata si es para trabajadores agrícolas o inmigrantes. Aquí se trata de la comunidad. No importa si eres americano, latino o asiático o de donde seas. Aquí es una escuela pública donde todos son bienvenidos. Quiero que escuchen a la comunidad y no queremos ser ignorados como nos han ignorado los políticos anteriores. Yo quiero pedirles a ustedes que están ahora aquí en el poder que tienen, queremos que nos apoyen como buenos políticos, porque en nuestra comunidad hay inteligencia, solo que los niños y jóvenes necesitan un poco de apoyo de todos nosotros. Gracias.
So now I'll provide a rendition of site translation. Hello, my name is Rogelio Nabor, and I am a resident of Pescadero. I have 3 kids, 2 in junior high and a daughter who's in college down in LA. I am actually here to ask for your support on the water project because it's now time to have water at the middle school or high school in Pescadero, because how is it possible that we are one of the most richest counties in the state and we don't have water at the school where there's hundreds of children where they spend their time studying? And it's not just that, but how many other kids are going to continue like this without any water? And what's the reason that we don't have it? Sorry, something happened to the phone. Beg your pardon. So we're one of the richest counties in the state, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have water for hundreds of kids. They should be studying, and how long are we going to continue like this? And that's the reason why we are here, so that way you don't cancel out this project, because we want water in our school, because water is indispensable for all, and more so for children. And I'm going to ask you, for people that are against this, that have water come to our school, these people may not be affected. So this project is actually for the school, not just for the school, but the entire community. And here it isn't about farm workers or immigrants. It isn't about sorry, the phone keeps.
We're gonna let you.
Thank you so
finish.
much. Here we go. So this isn't about farm workers or immigrants, but it is about the community. And it doesn't matter here if you're American or Latino or Asian. It doesn't matter where you're from. This is a public school where everyone is welcome. And I want for you all to listen to our community, and we don't want to be ignored like other previous politicians ignored us. I'm going to ask you, as you stand here today, with the power that we want for you to support us like the good politicians you are. There's a lot of intelligence in our community, but it's just that the youth, kids, need a little bit of support from all of us. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Solomon Nabor.
Sí, buenas tardes, comisionados. Mi nombre es Salomón Nabor Martínez.
Yes, good afternoon. Commission, my name is Salomón Nabor Martínez.
Estamos aquí. Gracias a ustedes por su tiempo de atendernos. Estamos aquí por lo mismo del agua potable sobre la escuela.
So thank you for your time and listening to us and attending to us. We're here for the same thing, for the potable water.
Sorry, can you ask him to put the mic
Okay.
much
No es una prioridad, es una necesidad
It's not a priority, it's a necessity
para nuestros hijos, nietos, el futuro,
for our kids, our grandkids, our future,
para que ellos tengan una agua limpia en sus escuelas,
so they have clean water at their school,
para lavarse las manos, la cara, para tomar
to drink, to wash their hands, their face,
y seguir el proceso que se tenía previsto.
and to continue with the process that was already there.
Quiero que nos apoyen para seguir adelante.
And I want for you to support us so we can continue on
Sobre el agua potable.
about the potable water. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian. Ryan Martinez.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Martinez. I am a sixth grader at Pescadero Middle School. I stand before you today in support of the proposal to provide our school with access to clean, safe water from CSA 11. The lack of reliable, clean water had an impact on the well-being and learning experience of students, teachers, and staff. But today we have the chance to change that. With the proposed water extension, we can ensure that students finally have access to the clean water we deserve. This isn't just about the convenience, it's about health, dignity, and equity. Access to clean water is a basic human right, and it's long overdue that our school has what it needs to thrive. I urge us all to support this extension, not just for today, but for generations of students to come. Thank you.
Karina Rodriguez.
Good afternoon. My name is Corina Rodriguez, and I might sound emotional because my son, Brian, just did amazing up here. I was born and raised in Pescadero, where I attended elementary, middle, and high school. I am, of course, in support of the extension of CSA 11, and I ask for your support as well. I am so disappointed that we have to be here today to talk about this providing clean water for our local school district. We often say that children are our future, but some actions, mainly from the Farm Bureau, don't reflect that. If we truly care about their future, we should be ensuring that they have the basic necessities they need to thrive, and clean water is the most basic necessity. This debate isn't just about water. It's also about whether we as a community will give our public schools the resources they need to serve our children. As a parent of 3 kids who are either in or will soon be in the affected schools, and as someone who deeply cares about the well-being of all children in the community, I can't stress enough how critical it is that we prioritize clean water for these students. And of course, some of you may say, Corina, your 3 kids will benefit from this. That's why you want us to support it. But let me be clear, I am a CSA 11 user. My mom owns a home there on North Street. My sister owns a home there on North Street. And my sister also spoke in favor of this at the PMAC meeting. We are a part of the community that supports this extension, even though our residences will potentially be affected, as the life of the well will decrease if this extension takes place. Despite that, we're here supporting the extension. Why? Because I care about my community. I care not just about my own kids, but all the children in Pescadero, regardless of the declining numbers. Our community has waited too long for this. Our children have waited too long. Let us not disappoint them any further. Please consider supporting this extension. Thank you for your time and your commitment to securing a better future for San Mateo County children. Thank you.
Kim.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Hyunmi Kim, and I'm here today to speak as a resident of Loma Mar, a neighboring unincorporated town near Pescadero, both located in District 3, where I have had an opportunity to get to know through my work and befriend many families who are present in this room today. I urge you to consider this issue through socioeconomic and racial justice lens. And Farm Bureau may have tremendous knowledge about the water supply, but students who are present in this room today have decades of lived experiences that inform them about the danger of being exposed to toxic water. The California Human Rights to Water Act declares that every person in California has the right to accessible clean water. However, it is a very well-documented fact that not just the Pescadero, but across all farming areas in California, such as the San Joaquin Valley, the Mexican and Latino families who physically work their agricultural lands themselves do not benefit from the spirit and letter of this declaration. This type of glaring racial and environmental inequity is precisely the reason why communities of color, including farm workers, have historically demonstrated proven leadership in demanding environmental justice in California, as you can see in this room today. So let's think about how this system that perpetuates inequity is set up to fail our students, our future leaders, and teachers at Pescadero Middle and High School. First, why is the school's water source poisoned with nitrates to begin with? Where do the nitrates come from? The high rate of toxins in the school water supply is largely due to pesticides and fertilizers used to support and benefit the agriculture industry. Now, who works these lands? Who are the people who get up 5, 6 in the morning to go and work in these lands? Whose physical labor is used to spray pesticides and fertilizers by the direction of whom? It is mostly the Mexican and Latino parents of our students or their neighbors who engage in backbreaking labor, being exposed to unknown health dangers from these dangerous chemicals while working minimum wages jobs. Just 5 more seconds, I'll be done. While our students grow up watching their parents working the lands and being exposed to toxic chemicals without proper health care, these young people also have to face the reality that their right to clean water at school is not being prioritized. They have to take time away from their school to be here today, in addition to having to live all their lives in substandard housing and looming threat of mass deportation. And now they have to be here to worry about whether they're going to have clean water at school or not. So I please beg you to support this project and lift up the spirit of these youth and young students so they don't ever have to come back here ever again. Thank you.
So I have allowed clapping, but I'm going to ask that we not do that so that because we might have other speakers that have a different viewpoint. And so we don't want any booing. If we'll just hold on to that, your response. Okay, next speaker.
Thank you. We currently have 5 speakers left. Chris Ramirez. Chris Ramirez.
You. Well, good afternoon. My name is Chris Ramirez. I am a 12th grader at Pescadero High School and president of ASB as well as a multi-sport athlete. My fellow classmates and I have been affected by this water over a decade. Over the past, well, I don't know how to say this, but I am a 12th grader and whenever I use the bathroom, I see the water is gross. And we actually have done a field study on how toxic the water is. And I think it's over 50% that, the water's pretty bad. Well, I, um, uh,
You're doing fine. Just take a deep breath and go for it. Please. Do you need translation?
No, I'm
Okay.
perfectly fine. What I want for this school is to have clean water, not just for me, but for the future generation of the school. School. I have seen, I've heard that multiple kids that the water that we have in Pescadero High School is pretty gross, and I've seen it like firsthand. I've seen it, and like washed my hands with it, and I always had second thoughts of when are we ever gonna have clean water? And I always be hearing these rumors that they're gonna be saying they're gonna fix it in 10 years, but since we're like the richest country here, I think we could make that happen sooner than 10 years. And I think that's everything I have to say.
Thank you.
Anna Politz.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna Polachek. I am a middle school and high school teacher in Pescadero. I am also a resident. I've been a California-born person, and I've lived in San Mateo County most of my entire life. I just want to let you know this isn't just about drinking water. This is about sanitation, because very often our well has a lot of sediment and the well just stops working and we are without bathrooms. So just imagine if you guys had to go to work and there's no water, there's no bathrooms, and you have to use a porta potty. And we're not talking, once a year. We're talking a couple times a year. So we're talking about sanitation, and there's so many important things that people have said in the past that I won't reiterate, but this is about dignity. It's about teacher retention. It's about keeping students in the district, and respect. That's all I have to say.
DJ Burns.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for listening to us. We appreciate it. All the people here that talked this afternoon, I couldn't agree with them more. We have nothing against the Hispanic people. I believe a lot of you here are my friends. I have a lot of workers on my ranch that I feel like they're family to me. So believe me, you need the water just as much as you're saying you need it, but you're being misleaded. Believe me, you're being misleaded. And what I mean by that is that water in that school, if it was tested right at the wellhead, I do not believe there's anything wrong with it. The problem is maintenance on that school. It goes from the well into a tank. I don't believe that tank has been cleaned for years, in my opinion, because there's no way there should be sand or plugged toilets from the water. It's because they're not maintaining the system. They're leaving it alone. Though all the pipes are corroded, they should be condemned, really. These kids should not have to go to a school with water like they have there. There's no reason for it. That water could be cleaned immediately, but they're leaving it go purposely. In my opinion, there's a well. They tried to dig a well next to the gymnasium, which was dry. There's a well about 250 feet to the west. And the reason I know it, I have a well right across the street. It produces 40 gallons a minute. And that strata runs right through the school. And I can witch wells, and I guarantee you there's water there. If they were to dig immediately, get an emergency permit from the county, they could have water in that school by the time they come back from Christmas vacation. I guarantee it if they get to work. I got people will dig the ditch and put the pipe to where the system is, but they got to clean that well. They got to clean those pipes, and they've never been cleaned. They got to be replaced. And they're making Farm Bureau look bad. Believe me, I'm for you people, every one of you. It's not true what they're telling you. It's not being clean. And that's the whole system there. It's been neglected for years. My other issue is the prime agriculture ground. It's in the PAD. It should be preserved because agricultural land is precious to us. That's how we make our living, with prime ground. That 500 acres should be preserved all the way up and down, all the way down the coast. It's got to be preserved. And far as the fire department goes, can the fire department tell me, wait 1 second, please. How more efficient is the fire department going to be to get to the coast highway if they're going to be between 3.5 and 4 miles to the east of Highway 1, and 90% of their work is on Highway 1, and they're going to have to go through the creek, Pescadero Road Bridge every time they go to the coast highway? There's no advantage. It's a disadvantage to the people of Pescadero and to the coast people that travel that highway.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
Adelaide.
Sure. You still get 2 minutes, so.
So my name is Adeline Robinette, and I come from the Pescadero Middle High School. And I believe that we should really help get this water. My name is Gemma Tabachnik, and I'm a 7th grader in Pescadero Middle High School. So every time me and Gemma go to the bathroom, we always try to wash our hands, but we are greeted by dirty water. And so we get out and we use hand sanitizer instead. And we usually have to eat lunch without completely cleaning our hands the correct way. And I believe that we should actually have clean water so that we can clean ourselves completely. Because I've had times where I feel sick, and I don't know if it's from the water or not, but I just really want to fix it. So to refill our water bottles, we have water dispensers around the school, and when the jug runs out, we have to go get them. And it's often sometimes during class, usually before, but we have to go get them, and we're at school and to learn, and I don't want to take up that time to go get a water jug when we should have water. And thank you. I hope you all have a nice day. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Bridget Jett.
Good afternoon, Chair and board members. No one in this room is arguing the fact that we need fresh, clean water. That's not even, we're all here for the reason. I wish I had a shirt that someone would offer me because it's exactly what we're here for, is clean water. But clean water faster. These poor kids in this community have been led astray. We've been piecemealing this project for years, and they've been on hold because of a firehouse and other reasons. The transparency in the community has not been clear. They should have had a well in 2015 when it was asked. If anybody's read the hydro system evaluation report, which I'm sure many in the audience haven't, the hydro science report, the recommendation in it says no recommendation. We refer nothing, don't do anything, which I think is a crock. They should be drilling a well. The second option was to replace the well with a well. The piecemealing of this whole project is just nothing but the bureaucracy and the crap that goes on with the county. We can't protest something if we don't get notified. I've never been notified about anything, and there's never been a sign or anything that coming soon, a firehouse or any kind of notification on that. Only people that are in with other things and going around know about it. I'm tired of the kids being used as leverage. It's awful. They need clean water. They need it now, not even a year from now. They're still not going to get water with this annexation. They're not going to get water for at least another year. That's terrible. Why not drill another well? The county needs to own up to this and drill. The bureaucracy is absolutely ridiculous. The other thing is that the tests that have come back obviously are, we need another well. They need 2 sites of a well. Use the other one, fix it so it can be an alternative and a secondary for them, but they need this thing. I also submitted a letter, so I'm not going into the details of it because you guys all received a letter from me that really lays out all of that and as well. And I'll take another couple seconds here. That has another article in there about Salinas Valley. They're pretty much similar to Pescadero in the sense of our diverse agricultural community, and they were able to have a school get a well within a year. So what's wrong with our state? What's wrong with our county? The corruption, the crap has to stop. It may not stop today, and that's okay, but we're watching and we're gonna make everybody accountable going forward. I want to just end on that. You should read that article. It's very intuitive and it's very much what we're going through right now. So God bless Jesus Christ, our Savior. And if he sees it today, he sees it today. And if he doesn't, he's watching. So
Thank you.
and also, I just want to also say that Commissioner Slocum last week said something really important in his meeting that said, make sure you look at the facts and the law. And that's absolutely true. So like I said, if it doesn't happen today,
Thank you.
it's going. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. There are no more speakers at this time.
Okay, so now what we do is we close the public hearing and we're going to turn it back to the commission. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start down with questions or comments. I'm going to go down this way and I'm going to be last, and then we'll take a motion after that.
Madam Chair, I was considering asking a question of the county. I don't know if you have to keep the public hearing open for that or not. No, city attorney says
we
no.
do not, and
Okay.
I have some questions for the county, so let's bring the county up. And if others have questions of the county while they're up, then we'll take them all at this time.
Then I have comments after
Sure.
everyone asks the county questions. Hi, thank you for being here. One of the commenters asked why not drill another well. It's a 2-parter, so hold on for just a moment before I answer that. One of the emails we got said if the county does add a new fire station and school to the water system, then the county should pledge to develop a reliable water source before the existing well goes dry as is expected. A surface water source with off-stream storage that could also provide agriculture with much needed water would be the best solution. I don't know, this isn't my department. This project should start before the well goes dry. So my general disposition was made clear during the last meeting, I think. But, I appreciate that a part of this equation is a lot of people are very concerned about their water supply. I do believe, as per the question I asked earlier, it's pretty far outside the purview of LAFCo most likely to try to address that. But I am curious what the answer to the question around what the county is doing in terms of the water supply is to facilitate some of our discussion. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for that question. So the Todd groundwater report from 2021 does, sure, thank you. That Todd groundwater report specifically acknowledges all of these constraints and limitations, and it notes very clearly that yes, there is a need to identify other water sources for the community. Whether this project were to go forward or not, there is an end date for the aquifer that supports CSA 11. Quoting from the report, many public water systems in California need to find additional water sources beyond the next 30 to 40 years, and that is a reasonable time frame for bringing new supplies online. Gradual groundwater overdraft will continue with or without the added demands, but would not create a critical supply problem until about 2057, when well number 1 will no longer be able to serve as the standby well. So again, that is a quote from the report. And a final task by this firm, Todd Groundwater, was to study some additional potential long-term sources, not instead of this project, but knowing that regardless of this project, that will be needed for the community to identify other water sources for the long term. So that work, some preliminary work has been done on that. It has not been released yet, but the county is looking at that.
Preliminary work is being done, is what I just heard you say.
That's correct. It's being studied by Todd Groundwater, various alternate water source options.
Sure.
I cannot speak with more detail than that. because
No,
it's not been released.
I appreciate that. And before a document is released, for those who are not as well accustomed as we are in laboriously reading very long, very dry documents, in this case, wet only because it's water, pun intended. But I think it's small comfort in general to hear recommendations. And while it's not the greatest comfort to hear there's something being done, but we can't tell you, it's much more of a comfort than merely a recommendation to hear that something is being done. And so I really appreciate even that little glimmer of a hope, because I think that, I am inclined to appreciate the fullness of the considerations around water, it being the most fundamental, aside from air, of what we have to work with as human beings. And while I appreciate there are some speakers who are not necessarily in favor of the LAFCo recommendations to date, I want to do everything I can to respect that they are very concerned about the longevity of communal water supply. And thank you for elucidating that something is being done at all.
Before I go to my questions, does any of the other commissioners have questions for the county?
So someone brought up the cleanliness of the infrastructure at the school. Who is responsible for that? The county or the school district? For making sure that the infrastructure that would even where the water would go through is even clean and where the flow would be unimpeded, that kind of thing. Is this the school district that's responsible for that? It sounds like it might be, but I don't know.
That's a really good question. We are currently, as a requirement of the grant that we've received from the state water boards, we are entering into a consolidation agreement. The county is entering into a consolidation agreement with the school district, which means as a result of that, once the project is completed, the school's water system is consolidated into CSA 11, and the school becomes another customer of CSA 11. That's what the consolidation agreement achieves.
To your specific question, the county is responsible for delivering this project to the school, building the infrastructure, and connecting it into the school's water distribution system. The school district is responsible, both now and once the project is operational, for ensuring that that infrastructure is adequate and that it's functioning. They are responsible for all the repair and maintenance of that system.
The school district, right?
The school
Okay.
district is. However, as prior to connection, there will be a disinfection that has to occur. That's a requirement of the water boards. And there is other testing that is required by the water boards to ensure that as we are connecting that water to the school district, we are making sure that it's going to be safe all the way through the tap.
So being on a fire board myself, I know that I mean, we were looking at ISO ratings and everything, and water and infrastructure, water supply has been a really important part of an ISO rating for a fire department or fire district, right? Which includes water pressure, just like I said, the infrastructure and the availability and accessibility and the flow, you know, for fire protection. And so if we're moving a fire, well, if the county wants to move a fire station to that property, I just want to make sure that the infrastructure is in place so you can actually fight a fire, right? So, I mean, because my fire district includes a very diverse area. And so this is Menlo Park Fire Protection District. And we've just been talking about water supply, and you know, we just had the North Fair Oaks fire in Middlefield Road, which is the largest fire in San Mateo County history, which happens to be in Menlo Park Fire District's district. And so I just want to make sure that the water pressure, water accessibility to a community that is very vulnerable. And I know this because the South Coast is in my Harbor District in District 5. So I represent that area and was very familiar with what happened with the CZU lightning fire, and our fire district provided water tillers to the fire. So I just want to make sure that if there's something there with a disaster, because it'll happen again at some point, that there's going to be enough water and good infrastructure so that the water can be used for fire protection. And so can you address what is happening on that front?
Sure. And I'm not an expert in fighting fires, but I can address what has been done as part of this project early on. The Todd groundwater report, as one of the purposes of that report was specifically to model what it looks like when you add these two facilities, the fire station and the school, to the system. So that was studied at that step. And in terms of the project has been developed and refined over time with close participation of CAL FIRE, of County Fire, both at the county level and the specific Pescadero Fire Station staff who staff that station to ensure that the water needs can be provided by the CSA 11 system. I will also mention that one of the recommendations that came from CAL FIRE staff was to add hydrants along the CSA 11 extension. So that is a change that has been made in response to their request in an effort to make sure that they are able to connect to the water as quickly as possible in the event of a fire.
But that means at the same time, the infrastructure is going to have to be maintained for any kind of water flow. And I just want to make sure that that's going to happen, because it sounds like, and I don't know all the details, it just sounds like that there may be a problem. And we're seeing that even in my fire district, where water infrastructure can be problematic, which would prevent fire protection in a timely manner in some of our most vulnerable neighborhoods and cities.
Is your question about who's maintaining the extension?
I just want to make, is there a plan to have that happen?
The extension from the current boundaries of CSA 11 to the school and fire station up through the water meter, that will be owned and operated by CSA 11 and managed by CSA 11. after the
Do we
project.
have, can we see that kind of a plan, Rob? I mean, I'm just really concerned.
I would like to make sure that we focus
Sorry.
on the item at hand, which is annexation.
Right, but
And
this
so.
goes towards other
and
things too, with
bec-
water accessibility. Because we're moving there's a fire station that's gonna be built there for presumably fire protection and fire prevention. And I just want to make sure that the tools are there with the water supply being, limited, I guess.
You had some questions.
Sorry.
Yes, and thank you. Before I get into my questions, I want to thank everyone who is on Zoom and everyone who came to this hearing to speak. It's very important for citizens of both sides of any issue to come and speak. And I'm especially pleased to see children here and children speaking. Thank you very much, everyone, and people who are clearly not used to being in these situations. I sat on that side of the audience for so many years speaking, and thank you for your interest. I think it's critical. My question is, first of all, my perspective is I came from a community where the county did not take care of the amount of growth for the water supply. And we ended up with a water moratorium. Every new house in this little community went in on wells, and we had wells going dry and no backup. My perspective on this for the community of Pescadero is I don't want you to be in the same situation 20 years from now, because it's no fun. Not only is it no fun, but in my situation, I had a newborn baby that I couldn't give a bath to because we had no water. That's the way it has been. So I'm looking for long-term solutions and plans. My question on this has taken 10 years or more, because I've had friends in Lomamar for 25 years. How long will it take to get the water to the school? If everything went, what is your timeline?
Sure. So some of you may be aware, we received a grant from the state water boards for the construction of the water line extension. That is just for water to the school. That's an expedited drinking water grant. That grant, because it's expedited, has a deadline for us of everything being completed on that project by March 2027. We are currently targeting breaking ground on the project in spring 2025. We have not yet hired the contractor who will actually build the project on the water line extension. Once we do, we will have a clear timeline in terms of the duration of construction for the water line. But the estimates by our engineer put a duration of construction at about 6 months. And then there's connection to the school. So this project is, there is progress on this project toward breaking ground in 2025 so that we are able to deliver water. I cannot say exactly when it would connect to the school, but just to give you a broad idea, looking at breaking ground again in spring 2025, duration of construction approximately 6 months. And then there's work that needs to be done to actually connect into the school's water distribution system.
And is the school going to be cleaning up its water distribution system and its own infrastructure? How old are the pipes in that school? What are they made of? When were they last cleaned?
I cannot speak to the age of the pipes in the school. I believe that would be better addressed by the school district. As I mentioned, as part of the consolidation agreement, there are certain protections that are required by the state water boards that must be in place to ensure that the system is disinfected, flushed out, and that there's testing that's done to ensure that once the water is turned on and connected to the school, that it's actually going to be safe for the students when they turn on the tap.
Okay, so then the water samples that were taken, families have had to put up with for decades. They were taken from 50, 60-year-old pipes, and we don't know whether they were lead. I'm sure at that age they had lead in the solder.
Is this?
This is still my question. I don't understand why we are taking so much time when, as the public stated, there's a public health and safety issue, especially for children and students. I've got other questions, but why is this taking so long?
So what's before us is an annexation. And so your question specifically about annexation, it's been a long time, but we're looking at annexation for the water lines to go in. Do you have specific questions on annexation?
My questions on annexation will be drawn from the most recent MSR.
I have questions on the annexation, and I don't know if it's to our LAFCo staff or to the county, and that is connections. If we have annexation of a water line, can we, through the annexation, condition the number of connections? And the reason I say that is that there was speakers today talking about future potential connections, more, which would then draw down the water faster. And also there, even in the letter from Pescadero Municipal Advisory Council, which I'm really glad that they held this other meeting, talked about, can't you add more connections, which would be a further draw. And so can the annexation have a condition that limits the amount of connections to those that are in this proposal, which is the school and the fire station, just two?
I'll provide an answer, I hope. The Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Act says that a LAFCO shall not impose conditions that would directly regulate land use density or intensity, property development, or subdivision requirements. What is before the commission is a boundary determination. What happens by the agency within its boundaries is a discretionary decision by the agency itself. So in the same way that if someone proposed to annex land into a city, the LAFCO would not impose conditions on what the city would do to exercise its police power within its jurisdiction after the annexation.
So if I could interpret, the connections would be up to the county, is that right?
Yes, except in this instance, as I understand it, all of the approvals received by the county themselves limit the ability of the county to allow additional provision of this municipal service. So it's not the LAFCO that's limiting the connections. It's other approvals such as the Coastal Commission and the county's own application to the State Water Board.
So those other approving agencies and approving the documentations who have those authorities have already limited the number of connections?
That's correct. That has been part of this project description from the beginning, that this is only 2 connections to the school and to the replacement fire station, and no other connections have been considered as part of any of the approvals that we have gone through in the course of this project that have been studied and weighed by the Planning Commission, by the Board of Supervisors, and by the California Coastal Commission. So it is not possible to make other connections based on the approvals we have received thus far.
So here's my comment, is that we've learned a lot through this process. We did go through the MSR on CSA, and I think some of our comments really are MSR comments, municipal service comments. And so I think that we might, at the end of this agenda, look at our work program and maybe want that MSR back, because I do think that there's things that we need to, that there are things that we might want to say on the MSR now that we didn't back a year ago. And because when I hear yours, but they're not about the annexation, but they're about the MSR.
And so those are municipal service reviews, sorry. And we, just so that you know, we review all special districts in all the cities, in theory, every 5 years, to make comments about them and to assess them. And we just did last year, CSA 11, and, or maybe the year before. And we did have same comments about, we really need to do this better, as you all did, are making today. But what I'm hearing is that we've learned some things and we might want to go back and just revisit that. And so just so that you know, that's going to be one of my requests when we get to that at the end of the agenda. Sure.
Thank you, Chair Martin, or Chair Draper. Sorry, I'm so used to saying Katie Martin. So I actually attended the PMAC meeting because, as everyone now knows, that I voted no just so that I can get more input, right? And so I attended the PMAC meeting, and I'm glad that the PMAC weighed in on this issue of providing clean water. But there are some things that I heard that were a little alarming from at least 3 people at that meeting. And let me just say this, I am for clean water for everybody, right? So there are residents who want to be hooked up to CSA 11, but can't be. And they have felt like that the county is, I don't know, not supportive of their getting water to their household or whatever, their business or whatever. So I want to make sure that water, I mean, Tiger, you're right. Water is it's like an essential service in this, basically. And I think that I think CSA 11 has 101 hookups and they're not all taken. I mean, Rob, can we understand what that looks like? Because if there are other homes, I don't know how many, I have no idea.
And I would say that would be a good question
In
if we get
MSR.
MSR coming
Right.
back.
Yeah, but I'm piggybacking on what you're saying, because I agree with you that the MSR should address these critical issues because it's not just water for a certain group.
Okay, we've drifted now off onto comments, which is good. But
Yeah,
I want to make sure
sorry.
that Commissioner Corso and Martin can ask a question of the county or a public. Well, let's go Corso. If Commissioner Corso, if she has any questions of the county at this time. Okay, hearing none, then we will take, if there's comments, and I'm going to go with, as a member of the public, sort of a little out of order, but if Commissioner Martin would like to make her comment. Okay. I just didn't want them to be left out there in the zones. Okay. So now we're on to comments. You heard sort of where I was going, but I want to thank all of the people that are here today. It takes a lot of courage to get up and speak in a public forum. And I want to thank you for making your comments. The Farm Bureau too, I want to thank you for being here. We did see your letters. I even saw your letter from 2022. So I know that I read them. When making decisions, it is difficult because there are balancing different needs to make those decisions. I do think that personally that we need to go forward with the annexation. But I also think that we should go back to the MSR on CS 11 because we've learned a lot. There's a lot of questions that we didn't know to ask or have solutions or work with the county on, because I think we all need, there needs to be more information and about that. And so that is my interests in moving forward. But I'm going to start down here and then we'll go here, and I'm entertaining a motion
And you know that I would be interested in including in the motion return of the MSR for the municipal service review for. Okay, okay, I will make the motion that we, can you put the slide up that of the recommendation so I can have it right? Okay, so we've opened the public hearing, we've heard comments, and the item 2 is by resolution disapprove the request for reconsideration. I'm going to make that motion and then add a condition or direction to staff that we return the municipal service review for CSA 11 so that we can incorporate these concerns, and in doing so, provide different type of public notification so that members within CSA 11 and other interested parties like the Farm Bureau and the school can be a part of that. So that is my motion.
Clarification, you are saying that you're, along with the amendment, disapproving the request for reconsideration, correct?
Correct, yeah. The disapprove the request for reconsideration.
Okay,
And
got
then
it.
adding a 3, which would be requesting that staff come back at the right time. They can tell us with reconsideration of CSA 11, well, including added notification, because we have all the people here, I should receive notification.
Thank you for the clarification. So moved, and pending a second, I would like to make
Can
comments.
I ask a question as well?
Yes.
Sorry, I was having issues earlier. I just wanted to ask for clarification on the third request that you're making, Chair, in terms of what the fiscal impact and time impact would be for that.
The fiscal impact would be that I'm going to say we can ask staff, but I'm not sure. I think there's some LAFCo has its work plan, and we're asking that work plan to come back with the reconsideration of CSA 11. We just did it a year ago, so we're not talking about redoing the whole thing, but there is some questions that we have, and I think we need to get those questions out before we know if there is a time and budget implication. And but right now, it's just a request that it comes back. We hear those questions, and no one understands those questions. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. And would you mind if I just made a quick comment? I wasn't able to, my sound wasn't working earlier before we take the roll call vote on this.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to personally thank everyone as well for coming to this meeting and having their voices heard. I really want to also thank the children. Es un gran orgullo que están aquí y que llegaron hasta los niños y niñas para hablar. It is a little mind-boggling to think about, the reality that we're discussing the right to clean water in a school. I know it's complex. I think I learned about the complexities from folks from the Farm Bureau, and I do continue to believe, though, that it's very simple. We need to make sure that our kids get clean water as soon as they can. I want to thank all of the speakers that came and felt safe enough to be heard in the chambers you all are in right now. And I look forward to voting on this. Thank you.
Okay, you managed to make a comment.
I do, but I did not hear a second to my motion.
Oh, is there a second? I made the motion. Is there a second? I'll make a second.
If you made the motion, then I'll
Okay.
second it,
All right.
et cetera.
If I may, through the chair, I do need some clarification about the term notification. The staff report for today's item for reconsideration spelled out what the notification requirements are for certain LAFCo actions. What I hear is the motion is that for the MSR, there be additional outreach to the community. The reason why I think the distinction is important is that notification is kind of a planning concept, And we don't really want to create the implication that everybody in CSA 11 has to receive notice from LAFCo about all actions related to CSA 11, because that's not a service that we perform for other districts. And just because this happens to be a fairly small district, there are other small districts in the county. We just want to be clear that we will do, my recommendation would be to actually direct the executive officer to bring back a plan for public outreach in relation to the MSR for the commission to give feedback on, rather than to try to, for the executive officer to make a guess about how much outreach is necessary.
I think that's fine. And I accept that that the executive officer come back with a plan for public outreach. My bad, I'm using planning terms, notification. And because I think that at a minimum, people who are here, we know who they, I mean, who spoke, I should say, or wrote in letters, should have an opportunity to be involved. And I won't use the word notification. So the third item would be that that CSA 11 MSR come back with the executive director, including a community involvement plan. Is the second okay with that?
Second is okay with that. And
All right.
I'd like to, yeah. can we
Okay,
make
comments will go this way and then down.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the comment that water is an essential service, I would articulate I believe that water is an essential building block of our physical presence. First of all, because we all want to speak directly to the youth in this room, because I think that those of us who are up here on this dais, or at least I can speak for myself, are really rather impressed to see this many youth show up to what for us oscillates between actually interesting and pure drudgery. But the bottom line is you're seeing your government in action. And as somebody your age, you may not realize it now, you may be bored out of your minds, and this experience is invaluable. I had a English teacher once upon a time on the topic of public speaking who suggested to me, well, if you actually are able to have the bravery to step up to that microphone, just start mumbling and see what comes out. And that's a practice, and you get better at it over time. And the hard part's just stepping up to that thing. And after that, whatever comes out of you, you earned it. As to the topic at hand. And I think that as a city person who has planning experience, there are familiar things about this that step well outside of our purview, which is annexation and sphere of influence. But I feel like this was largely framed in terms of clean water for a school and safe delivery of emergency services, so that fire trucks don't have to drive through flood zones, essentially, versus the availability of a jurisdiction's water supply. And in both instances, regardless of number or veracity of speech, the topic at hand is, are we going to be able to live for the foreseeable future? And therefore it evokes the passion and the heart of whoever's speaking on that. And I want to start by acknowledging that. That being said, I have a great deal of respect for the amount of planning that has gone into bringing us to this place over a apparently decade-long period of time, including the community level, county level, the state level through the Coastal Commission. And as a coastal city, I'll tell you, it's no small feat to bring a project across the finish line of the Coastal Commission. And so, frankly, that's to be commended. And more than that, my predecessor on this body, I know, was as a school board member in his past and in his future, was passionate about making sure that our youth have a clean drinking supply, let alone washing supply, and spoke about it before it occurred to me I wanted to be on this board. Our county supervisor, who recused himself, has driven hundreds of miles to be at a Coastal Commission meeting to make sure the Coastal Commission has seen what the water in your school looks like, to make sure that they have a visceral understanding of why it is they needed to step up and make sure that your water is addressed. Our coastal commissioner regionally, Justin Cummings, is a Santa Cruz representative, first of his city and then currently of his county. And so what I'm suggesting by saying that is that while Pescadero may be small, while your school may be small, this is an issue that has elicited the concern of the region, if not the state. And many people are very concerned that you have clean drinking water. As somebody who has been involved in planning processes and understands how long they take, I think that the value of having a plan in one's hand, even if it's not the most ideal plan, and one can conceive of a quicker plan, well, the reality is in government, things often work very slowly. And if the consideration is 2 years versus 1 year, which by the way is not in our purview, the reality is if you have a plan in your hand right now, you just cut 3 years off of a process of planning to implement that plan that if it comes to fruition by 2027, congratulations, you actually know when you're going to have water. Past that, I am deeply moved by one of the young speakers who evoked the concept of a youth need for health, dignity, and equity. And I think that as a young person with a mind that is forming, having clean water to inform your health, your dignity, and so that you feel you are equal to other human beings in your county who get to have clean drinking water in their schools, will inform a greater sense of how you can contribute someday to your community in some fashion. If not in this fashion, then one of your own devising. And it's impressive and something to be proud of for each and every one of you that you are here now representing your own needs, as you will need to do in your futures, I assure you. You are to be commended, and I will be proud to vote yes for this motion.
The time is getting late. I know. I'll be brief. First of all, I want to agree with all the people who've expressed enormous respect for all the people who've shown up. As you know, it's a big deal to have to come down here and address us, and I am impressed. The motion before us has to do with the reconsideration of the annexation and sphere of influence. I think I, at the last meeting, expressed my agreement with all that LAFCo had done to get this annexation going. I think the fact that the Coastal Commission has agreed with the county and all that has been said by LAFCo in repudiating some of the concerns, I agree with. So I will also vote in favor of this, disapproving the request for reconsideration. Thank you.
I have a question. How long, in all this discussion, nobody has told us how long this reconsideration will take. What is the timeline?
So we're just approving the reconsideration.
I want to know how long the reconsideration will take.
So are you talking about the reconsideration of that municipal service review?
No, I'm
'Cause we-
talking about what we're voting on now, the reconsideration request from the Farm Bureau.
So recommendation in my motion was to disapprove the reconsideration.
I understand that. Nobody has answered this question on how long the reconsideration will take. That will inform my vote on whether to approve or disapprove it.
So if I may, so the commission in September, their September commission meeting on it, on the 18th, approved the sphere of influence update and amendment and the annexation of the Pescadero Middle and High School site. Those are the two resolutions that 1326 and 1327. The Farm Bureau, so LAFCo does not work like Planning Commission necessarily. There's an appeal process, but a rough equivalency of that is the request for reconsideration. And so that is what the Farm Bureau filed in October. And so that request for reconsideration is before the commission today about whether to accept that and essentially follow what the Farm Bureau is asking, which is the denial of the annexation and the rescinding of the sphere of influence amendment, or as the motion is on the floor, that the commission deny the request for reconsideration, and that would conclude the public hearing process for LAFCo. The rest of the functions after that are administrative.
So let me say it in a different way. If there was a reconsideration, the Farm Bureau has been asking for a whole bunch of studies. How long those studies would take, I have no idea, but it could take years for some of the things that they're asking. Mr. Burns, in a letter of 2022, said he really wanted the existing site, where they are now, to be the site. So that's what he says. Anyway, that's what he said in 2022. So if that's sending it all the way back to the beginning, that could be 10 years, because it would have to be a reconsideration of siting and a reconsideration, and then going through the permitting process and the Coastal Commission. So it's a question that I think there's not a clear answer on, as to how far does reconsideration go back. And so it could be 1 or 2 years, it could be 10 years. That's my thought.
If I may, I understood the question to be slightly different, and I hope I can answer it. Reconsideration is before the commission today, because it's a requirement when a request for reconsideration is timely made to bring it back to the commission. You are being asked by the party requesting reconsideration to rescind the 2 existing resolutions. If there is a vote to do that today, the annexation and the sphere of influence resolutions would go away in their entirety, and a new action would need to be proposed, probably by the county, to bring a different resolution. There's also some text edits that are proposed by the Farm Bureau as a proposal for resolution, but for various reasons we can get into, it's not within the power of the LAFCo to do things like they're being asked today, such as to decouple the fire station from the annexation of the school property. It is a binary question for the LAFCo whether or not to annex this property into CSA 11 or not. That is what is being asked to be reconsidered. So I would encourage you to think in terms of whether or not you believe that a case has been made for you to reconsider the annexation, yes or no, based on the facts presented by the party requesting reconsideration.
And again, the reconsideration law that First Cortez and Hertzberg is specific to new or different information that was not before the commission when the commission made its determination in September. So you would have to make findings or determinations regarding that particular issue if you were to uphold the request for reconsideration and rescind those 2 resolutions.
Thank you. Am I voting? No. We
I
see. Hold on just a sec. We have 2 more commissioners with potential questions before we go back to that. Yes.
Oh, no, I was just.
Okay, but do you have a comment at this time? Well, I'd like to hear from Mr. Khan.
The specific request for reconsideration was to make corrections to the resolutions and renotice them with CSA 11 notice. And then it would then reconsider the resolutions on the table.
Mr. Chancarelli, do you have a question or comment? All right.
Still in the decision-making mode.
Right, we have a motion and a second
Yeah.
on the table, and so
Yeah.
if to make a comment or a comment on the motion.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I just want to thank everyone for being here like everyone else. It's so important to voice your concerns and your opinion. And if I come across a little too terse, it's because I really care about this issue and I want to do right by the entire South Coast community. So thank you for being here and giving your comments and things that for us to consider. So with regard to the motion, I mean, it is a very, very narrow situation here. And the PMAC actually unanimously voted to move forward with this annexation. And I'm inclined to vote that way because I don't want to have more time spent, but here's my issue. Those questions that I think Anne, you rightly suggested should go into a municipal services review, right? In some case. Rob, here's a question for you. So like, there seems to be new information that can go into an updated MS or municipal services review. I mean, what happens with that? Then just to let everyone here know that, whatever changes there might be in an MSR, how would that affect the future for the South Coast, in particular Pescadero, in terms of fire protection? I mean, like, they don't have, I guess I'm a little confused. I'm not confused, but we can give recommendations on, water availability and infrastructure. Like, I'm thinking, for example, for fire protection, if we want to update the MSR to cover some of those concerns, right? I mean, what happens then if you could just let everyone here know? Because it'll come back to LAFCo, right, for review. And then we would vote on a final possible municipal services review. And then what?
So if I can too, as of right now, even through this proposal process, there has not been really any new information that has been
Regular one.
attention on that particular issue. So when we would, whether that's regarding water availability, because that's the Todd groundwater report, which again was referenced in the MSR and in the staff report for this particular proposal. So the county could do additional studies that we maybe could inform the MSR. One of the recommendations from that 22 MSR was that the county conduct basically a community plan for Pescadero. And that could encompass probably a number of these issues that were discussed here today, whether that be fire, about how to address issues of septic or wastewater, about water adequacy for fire suppression for sprinklers. So there's a number of things that could be talked about in that community plan. And that's something that LAFCo can work with the county now to see about the status of that. Because a lot of these things are recommendations, and you are correct in kind of the process. We would have a municipal service review or an MSR, and we would go out and we would potentially do community outreach. The last time we did this in 2022, I presented to PMAC at one of their meetings on the MSR. So we could certainly do something similar. And then we would bring it back to the commission for approval, and with, similar to all MSRs, with recommendations for what either CSA specifically could potentially do, or the county, because we made recommendations to both for the specific water issues, but also related to solid waste, also related to general planning issues in Pescadero that we encourage the county to take a look at. So those are things that we can do, and we continue to follow up with county staff about the current recommendations we have in that 22 MSR. And if it's brought back to the commission when we want to do a revised update with maybe some additional areas that we want to look at, then we can continue to follow up with the county about those recommendations and see how those could potentially be implemented.
Thank you, Rob.
Commissioner Corso, do you have any questions or comments before we take we vote on the motion?
Questions or comments, but I want to just ask everyone to be really mindful of.
You're cutting up.
We've been in this hearing for a long time now, that we have community members that want to hear us vote. I think everything that's been asked has been answered multiple times, and I just want to make sure we're being respectful of the public and that we do what we our task here, and that is vote on this.
Okay, there's a motion on the table to disapprove the request for reconsideration for LAFCO file 2408, consideration of LAFCO file 2408, proposed sphere of influence, and to request the executive officer to bring back the municipal service review for CSA 11, along with a proposed community engagement plan And there was a second to that motion. Roll call, please.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner Slater Carter. Commissioner Big Stick,
Aye.
Commissioner Warbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Sorry, guys. Before I vote, I want to say I am very disappointed at the piecemeal planning and action.
Chair,
The
can you please
Pescadero,
respectfully vote?
I will not criticize you. I expect the same respect. Thank you. I think the community has been let down by the process. And I'm going to vote yes on this, but I note that there is piecemealing going on. And unfortunately, your water system isn't going to be fixed for 2 years, from what I've heard. Please go to your school board and tell them to clean up their act. Thank you.
So that was a yes vote then?
That was a yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Chang Kurong,
Yes, and I also share the same concerns as Commissioner Slater Carter.
Commissioner Corzo,
You're muted. We're taking a vote, a roll call vote.
Yes. Can you?
yes. Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break. I can ask everybody to move outside because we have a whole lot of other things going on, but thank you for being here. Okay, 2-minute break.
Thank you for that amendment. That made all the difference in my vote. Because this is horrific. School district, they should have cleaned
Come on, it could go in them. Which item are you with? 8. The what? Oh, all right. And you're with Broadmoor too. So you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to move the agenda around. No, well, the other ones are sort of long. Oh, and I'm going to take, if with my commissioner's approval, because is to take 8 next, and then we'll just.
Yeah.
Although,
Do we have anybody on Zoom?
no? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
No, we can do Broadmoor. I'm fine with you. That's item number
6.
item 6. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you'll be here or not, but I just wanted to. But I.
With the concurrence of the commission, I'm going to recommend that we move to the next item 8. I don't know what happened to my, which is the Broadmoor issue, because we have Broadmoor people here. And I've lost my way here. And while I'm finding the Broadmoor issue, I want to just say that we have on the agenda a municipal service review for the Harbor District. And at one time, the Harbor District had a lot of issues and concerns. And they have diligently, the leadership has diligently worked on them. And there's quite a, I think, favorable municipal service review. So it's possible. That's all I'm saying, is that may look bleak now, but it's possible.
Personally.
So did the commission agree to move to item 8? All right, let's start with item 8, which is Broadmoor Police Protection District and LAFCo initiated dissolution process. Staff.
Thank you, Chair. And so if the commission may remember, this item was discussed at the July 17th LAFCo meeting. And in deference kind of to the district and some issues that were going on there, including a ballot measure that was going to be forthcoming on the November election, the commission decided to continue this discussion and update to the meeting today in November. And so I'm going to just briefly touch on the report and some updates from that particular item. Go to the next slide, please. If the commission may recall, the LAFCo adopted an MSR, Municipal Service Review, for the Broadmoor Police Protection District in May of 2024. And there were several determinations about the fiscal health of the district, considering that it was poor, that it affects the ability to continue to provide police services to the residents. There were significant budget deficits in the last several years, that there have been changes to staffing levels at that time when the MSR was adopted in response to those fiscal issues. But the Broadmoor Police Protection District also had hired a firm to assist them with their 2024 budget, along with the proposed special tax on the November 2024 budget. So as an update, that ballot measure, which was a personal tax, did not pass. And so the projected revenue of about $700,000 will not be going towards the district at this time. But the district did provide an update yesterday via a letter to the county executive office, specifically the county executive, Mike Calgi, about the current situation for Broadmoor, including its fiscal health. The district is going through an audit of its parcels that it assesses. And then through that audit process, it's determined that some of these parcels were not being correctly charged. So there's potential additional revenue that will be coming in future years. So that's something that we will continue to follow with the district about what that revenue would be and what that impact on their fiscal health would be as well. There was also correspondence about the reserve officer unit being staffed again and augmenting some of their current full-time positions that are there, along with recent election changes, as one new member was appointed to the board recently and a new member was elected to the board. So there'll be a turnover of the 3-member board with 2 new members, one already on the board through the appointment, and one will be starting at the beginning of the new year. The staff report on the next slide, we talked about the dissolution process and who can initiate a dissolution and what that action would be. That would include whether or not the action is consistent with an MSR, about whether the LAFCo would initiate that particular dissolution and under what proceedings, because there are several factors that it could take and other routes it could take, whether that be by petition, whether that be a resolution of the district body or through LAFCo or by another agency such as the county. And then there are several factors that were that staff recommends contemplating if a commission initiation of a dissolution was to be enacted, such as thinking about what that plan for service and successor agency would look like, the protest thresholds, because there's a lower protest threshold for a LAFCo initiated dissolution, what a timeline for a potential project like that would be, and impacts of workload, and then cost to LAFCo, whether they be direct or indirect. On the next slide, there's an overview of what's known as the SB 938 dissolution process. Again, that is specific to LAFCo initiated dissolutions, and there's more detail in the staff report about what that process looks like and those findings that have to be made in conjunction with an adoption of an MSR. There is a higher protest threshold, but there's certain findings that have to be met, and they're documented here on the slide along with the report. And again, it requires a remediation period of 12 months. So we have received, on the next slide, we have received several comments. They have either been part of the packet or have been provided at the dais. There's a letter from Andrea Hall, which is part of the packet, and letters from John Aguirre, Roger Rouse, and Michael Davis, which are copies for the commission for public comments on this particular item. So again, the direction that was provided or recommended in July is the same recommendation here before the commission today. And that's to direct staff either to prepare an application, to produce follow-up reports or additional studies, or to take no action at this time related to the Broadmoor Police Protection District. So I'm happy to answer any questions, specifically if there are any regarding that correspondence that I've received from the district itself.
Questions before we open up the public hearing? Yes.
So Rob, with regard to the potential dissolution issue being before LAFCo, I'm going to be really honest with you. I am very concerned about who the successor agency might be, given the turmoil in the sheriff's office. I mean, I said it in July, and I think our worst nightmare is at our front door. So I'm really torn on the dissolution issue. So if we don't have to move forward with the dissolution, but then what would we want? And I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. If we didn't, what would we want from the police district in terms of like a plan or something, or is it an updated MSR thing? I don't even know. I mean, you've got 2 new board members and no parcel tax, as a successor agency that's questionable right now. So I kind of feel like we're trapped a little bit.
Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to jump into where I
Okay.
think we should go,
Okay,
but I'm
sorry.
open.
Am I
And that
being
is
premature?
that I don't think we should go for dissolution at this time, but I do what I call active oversight.
Right.
And that is, and I'm going to volunteer to go to a few meetings
Well, I
for
have
that
been.
oversight.
I have been, yeah.
Because there's a lot of work to do. And so I don't think that we should just walk away like we have with other MSRs that we've done. But
I
we
agree
need-
with you,
But we
yeah.
need to do that. And so that's another option I think that we have. So that's
That was
just
my
it.
question, though.
That was just,
What- Yeah.
I think there's another option
I
between
agree.
these two, and I'm calling it active oversight.
Okay.
But
I'm just
but
curious.
that's my thought.
Do they have to give us a plan? I don't
We-
know.
we
I mean,
have
or
made-
do we make up our own
In our
process?
MSR, we have what we think that they should do.
Right. but-
And we did a outline, a matrix that said, have you done it? And
But I'm
we-
talking about, like, what are they gonna do with
I think that,
very limited
okay,
funds?
okay,
Is there a
we've
fin-
gone
that's-
beyond
that's the thing.
questions.
Yeah, sorry. So
we've
that's
gone
my
beyond
question.
questions. And so do we have questions? And I am one of the ones that did let us down that direction.
Thanks, Ann.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a question.
All right.
Which may or may not inform our deliberation on that point later. But the question is, I think one of the correspondent comments we got, if my memory is working properly, said something to the effect that the district has already used about 70% of their budgeted funds for the year. My question is, do we know whether or not that's accurate? Do we know right now how their budget is going?
So if I recall correctly, I think that reference might be specific to legal costs. I'd have to go back and check the correspondence again, but I believe that's what that number was specifically referring to. At this exact time, I do not have exact number for the district's budget. In the correspondence that we've received from the district just yesterday, at this time, they foresee that they will have reserve funds at this time, where as of last year, they did not. They were very close to either being negative or running with no money. So there does seem to be some improvement. The exact numbers of that I don't have right now. If we were to bring this back and kind of do updates at each commission meeting, which we have done in the past, so that would not be a unique thing for LAFCo staff to do for the commission, then that's something that we could include as kind of an update of where exactly the district is from a finance standpoint, especially comparative to other years, where we've seen in January of 2024, that's about the time the district had to go through some very painful cuts. They did receive property tax at that point, so that helped them. So it's an understanding kind of that flow. That's something that we can't bring back, though, and get that specific.
Thank you. And I see the executive officer in the audience who may speak to the question of money, since it's been a rather pertinent topic of conversation on our board. But I think that the clearer we have an understanding of whether or not they are financially going to be viable might inform whether or not we initiate proceedings, which we may or may not have at the end of this meeting.
Sure. Yes, okay, these are just questions. I won't comment. And you have questions?
I do have a question, and full disclosure, I followed Broadmoor for a lot of years because I owned and operated a McDonald's restaurant near there. And Broadmoor has always been an independent group of folks, and I would like to find a way, and this is my question, is given the situation, I don't want to see a dissolution, but I'd like to know what we can do
to allow Broadmoor, if they're able to come out of this quagmire that they got in. And I know it's a rapidly changing world. So what can we as LAFCo do? I'm looking at the report now, but even then things have changed. So I'd like to know what we can do to help Broadmoor, give Broadmoor time to solve its problems.
Certainly. So if, the district since 2022 has had a number of challenges, and those challenges are very well known, I think, to this commission. And in those challenges, the commission adopted both a special study and a municipal service review that had a number of recommendations, not only of governance changes, talking about dissolution or other changes of contracting services, but also practical kind of solutions regarding financial accountability, regarding transparency, regarding things that could be enacted that could help the district find better footing from a financial standpoint, and potentially have the ability to grant them more time to look at paths forward about what the options are for the district. So we have a series of recommendations that the district has been working on. I suspect that we might hear more from the district about the status of those recommendations in forthcoming months. That'll be something that LAFCo staff will include in any kind of future updates, particularly if there are direct actions that the district is taking regarding those recommendations. And certainly, as we have these kind of either correspondences at these meetings, whether it's us, again, going to the LAFCo, to the Broadmoor Police Protection District Board meetings to have discussions, and certainly having conversations from a staff perspective, from LAFCo back to staff at the district. We're trying to keep those channels of communication open so we can have a dialogue about what path forward would be appropriate for the district and what steps they will take and how we can support those steps if we can.
Corso, do you have a question at this time?
She's no longer on.
Okay. Public hearing. I see representatives. Are you? We do not. All right.
Have one virtual hand raised on Zoom.
Oh, you do? All right, well, let's take them.
No longer. Yeah, I was gonna click on them and they just no longer raised their hand.
But I don't see anybody jumping up, so I will, oh. You have the right to have anybody come up, so. Okay, go ahead.
May I ask a legal question, Chair? Through Council Brown Act concerns, given that we have an elected member of the board and a second member of the board in the audience.
No concerns.
Thank you very much.
We have one speaker slip from Mr. John.
Good afternoon.
Speak, be a rock star, put it right there.
Good afternoon. Johnny Gare, 22-year Broadmoor resident, and currently I serve on the Property Owners Association as a director, and I am the recent appointment that you just spoke of to the Broadmoor Police Protection District. I love what I'm hearing. I want to appreciate there are several of you that are on this dais now. I know Commissioner Martin's not here, to actually physically take the time and come out and see what we're about as a community. That's a very big deal. I don't feel like is the rule of thumb we want failure. I think we want success for us. And I think we've done a lot with recommendations. I have been unwavering of my stance. It's been 2 years' time now. I support the community. I support the Police Protection District. I think Chief has gone with the commission, has worked super hard to meet a lot of your recommendations. I love the oversight idea by Commissioner Draper. I think that would be fantastic, would welcome that. It is a time of transition. on a national level, on a local level. I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't think anybody really wants to dissolve. We did have an election. That measure was not successful. I didn't go door to door and hear, John, I don't want the police department. Just not too excited about paying additional tax at this point in time with the uncertainty in my life. Well, that's the human element. I can appreciate that. You deal with the hands that you are dealt. Super excited at that prospect. We have, again, a new look commission. Very excited to work with and see what we can do, because I believe the dedicated men, women, officers of the department, along with ourselves, absolutely make this a viable, sustainable entity. We've got people that want to be here serving our community, and our community wants to be served. Whatever you can offer us, it would help us. In that endeavor, I am on board. Thank you for your time.
There are no other. The chief is raising his hand. We're taking public comments right now, so please go forward.
Hey, so my name is Andrea Hall, and I've been submitting comments to LAFCo for a couple years now, and I'm just so happy to come in person finally, and thank you all for your continued interest in Broadmoor and your continued oversight. As you may know, I was recently elected to the Broadmoor Police Commission with over 60% of the vote. And to be frank, I don't have much to add beyond my written comments, which I submitted via proper procedures and on time, unlike some of my counterparts on the commission. I understand that there have been some belated responses to my letter from the members of the commission and employees of the district. Rather than respond to their excuses and ad hominem attacks on me, I want to use this opportunity to emphasize that the district, the commission, and LAFCo, that Broadmoor must follow all of the applicable ethical rules and laws to re-earn its constituents' trust. The results of this election have shown that. The constituents don't trust the district with an extra $300 a year. That's why they voted the way that they did. And we need to take it seriously. We need to take that message from the voters seriously. It's not about shifty national attitudes or the zeitgeist or someone's Weltanschauung. It's about that they don't trust this commission. They don't trust this district. And so, I mean, I'm really exercised about this because I'm passionate about fixing this. I'm passionate about transparency, trust, and ethics. And, I guess, yeah, so I'm getting a little bit exercised about it. But, at the end of the day, I just want to say that I welcome LAFCo's continued involvement. And I would welcome the formation of an inspector general to oversee law enforcement in all of unincorporated San Mateo County. Thank you very much.
Chief, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Mike Conley, Chief of Police for Broadmoor, Special District Manager. Last July, there was this period of discussion. At the conclusion of that meeting, I went back to my office and started looking over more and more of the matrix that I've been working on over the year and revenue aspects, and quite frankly, what Measure I was going to look like, how that was going to feel. What didn't happen with Measure I is we didn't have a committee, which normally if you have any kind of a proposition, you would have an active committee out there pushing for it. We didn't do that. We were cautioned against advocating for that as both sworn personnel and electeds. Now, having said that, I also was tasked with the task roles, the tax roles that we do on an annual basis. And this year, we happened to get a new document that said the planning department, not the planning department, but there was a change in coding for the different types of buildings that are out on the parcels. As I started looking at that and looking at our tax rolls, I realized that there was a serious deficiency. And so I started doing hard searches and hard looks within the district at the parcels physically, electronically, using different types of software. At that particular time, it was unknowns to me that the company we were working with on the Measure I ballot measure, NBS, which was recommended to us by Mr. Drew, escaped my name right now, but our commission selected NBS. NBS does that function all over San Mateo County for a number of municipalities and special districts. So I spoke to them about my concerns about what I discovered, that it appeared to be that there were a number of parcels that were improperly coded and were not paying their taxes properly, which is one of the impetuses for Measure I. I worked with them, they went out and did a deep dive, and they discovered that for a number of years, we had not been getting our proper revenue. And so they discovered approximately $300,000 in revenue that we had not been collecting annually. They can't tell how far it goes back. I brought this forward. They generated the report, which was issued on November 1. Now, that was not sent to this board because that wasn't part of the discussion today, but I think Director Bartoli may have it. I'm not sure. And so that's been presented and it's on our website. Secondarily, on November 5th, Election Day, our district council was doing some further digging into this. We started going back a little bit further and we asked, we looked at some of the tax bills, and 10 years ago, we were making a lot of money, quite frankly, from the assessments. But after X year 2014, those assessments dropped off to bare minimum. In other words, the large payers weren't paying anything. We went from paying $14,000 down to paying $300. And so we've now gone back to NBS and we've done a little bit of math, and we're talking about in excess of $1 million. That's just from the ones we know.
Yeah.
So, I didn't realize I was on a timer. Anyway, it's more than $1 million. And so we are engaging with NBS to do a deep dive. It's already been brought forward to the assessor's office, who have taken a preliminary look, and they said, yes, there's something here. And they've now forwarded this information to the controller's office to come back, find out what's going on. Having said that, we do have large scale money on the horizon. We just don't know what it looks like right now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. I'm going to say my observation is I want to congratulate the two new commissioners. You have a lot of work ahead of you. I think we all need to take a deep breath because we're all going to have to work with each other. And there's going to be a lot of hard work that has to be done. I looked at the website today and it was easier for me to navigate. I do have some suggestions for things to be added to it, but I can see the format. So I can see those little incremental steps. I don't think that, if you would, for both on the administrative side and the financial side, you're out of the water yet. But I think that there's progress. And I do think that that's what needs to be continually done is working on those things. So I'm going to take it to Harvey first and hear what the commissioners say.
In July, when we were considering dissolution, we said, or Commissioner Slocum said, we shouldn't go forward with that because if there's going to be an upcoming election, let the citizens of Broadmoor tell us what they think about their district. Well, they needed 2/3 approval of Measure I. They got less than half. I think that tells us what the citizens of Broadmoor District think about their commission. As you know, for at least the last year, I've been advocating for the dissolution of the district. I think we keep hearing, oh, it's just going to be this, and now we're going to get some extra money, and we have a little better website. No, I really think the solution is dissolution. And I'm hoping that if LAFCO initiates a LAFCO initiated dissolution process, that the district itself will realize that the only real way forward is to dissolve itself and not go through all the shenanigans of elections and the expense of having these special district arrangements. As I said, I've advocated that I think the best successor agency, this is my personal opinion, is to incorporate into the Daly City Police Department. That gets a little bit around the difficulties that the sheriff's office is now involved in. I'm unfortunately going to be off the board, and I don't know if my suggestion is going to be taken seriously, but I'd like to leave you with the idea that if LAFCO goes ahead and tries to dissolve the district, that the district itself will realize that it's in its own interest to dissolve and not go through this charade that we keep hearing, oh, this is going to be fixed. We've been hearing that for 3 or 4 years now. And the financial problems are still there. The lack of response is still there. So that's where I'm coming from. I've been consistent with my feelings. I hope that somebody in the commission agrees with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think this premise, this alternative option given LAFCO could continue working with the district to address the issues the district is facing and arrive at a solution that is supported by other agencies and potentially the district is a noble idea. I don't like that I don't know what the real financial situation of Broadmoor is. I imagine you don't either. And so looking at dissolution options, there's 2 different options. One has a 10% threshold of protest, the other is 25%, but there's more to it than that. First of all, there was a major election in Broadmoor that was just held. In both instances, the voters voted over 60%. In one instance, almost 2/3 of the vote. In both instances, by the way, it occurs to me, about 63.13% of the electorate actually voted. I'm not sure if more voters would come out if asked to or not. But I've read a bit from Ms. Hall and heard her voice during our meetings. I think she is very clear about what her messaging is and what her messaging was to the voters who voted for her, to the tune of 60.55% for, as opposed to the other gentleman who got 39.45% of the vote. Also, there was a measure, needed 2/3 in order to fly. The Broadmoor citizens voted no to the tune of 57.35%. So I'm bringing all this math up to say that, 10% of the populace or the voters is 312 people. I think they could get 312 people to protest, no problem. Frankly, I think they could get the 779% that they would need to protest an SB 938 hearing together. And then I think that once that went to the ballot box, in both instances, the voters would vote for dissolution. And that's predicated on the votes that were just taken. Now, a word about SB 938. Initially, I was interested in it because it's a higher protest threshold, which makes it more likely that it would stick. At this point, I'm not interested in it for that reason. I'm interested in it because one of the conditions that must be met for SB 938 is 1 or more documented chronic service provision deficiencies that substantially deviate from industry standards or other government regulations. And here's the important part. And its board or management is not actively engaged in efforts to remediate the documented service deficiencies. I'm very interested in that because what's built in here is not only is there chronic issues, but if they're not doing anything about it, then dissolution gets to happen. And if they are doing something about it and diligently working toward what they need to do to fix those deficiencies, then dissolution doesn't need to occur. Once a resolution is brought to us and approved, they have 12 months to show their diligence. And then there's more time that passes to work it out. What was estimated was 20 months is what it takes from the time of resolution before it might go to a vote of the people. And I say might because I've been to a few Broadmoor meetings now, and I have seen them working on it. What I don't know is if they're working on it quickly enough to offset the finances that are not optimistic, even through an optimistic lens. Without hard numbers, without hard cash, I don't know if they can maintain themselves financially. That's before getting to the Brown Act issues, which is another thing that I think they very much need to work on. But that's my concern. Okay, it might look good. If it does, that's a deficiency that can quickly be remedied within the 12 months time period or however long it takes to figure out whether or not they're diligently working on it. And in the meantime, I think that if this were to go to a vote of the people this last November 5th, they would have voted to dissolve. So my hunch is if they were to vote on it today, they might very well vote to dissolve. And that's concerning to me, to the point that I think that SB 938 gives us the tools to say, well, if it needs to end because their finances are not in order and they're not getting in order and they're not rising to the level of the standards of governance that California mandates, then we tried. But what's also written in here is you have the option to really try and really get there. And it really goes to the voters. And so I would actually advocate for SB 938. Dissolution through SB 938.
We are not. Sorry. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, and we probably have about a half an hour of at least. Oh, and that's 3 minutes from now. Thank you for checking with us and not watching us. All right, I'll make this very brief. I like to see LAFCo supporting and working with local government. So I will not vote for dissolution. I will vote for working with Broadmoor.
So I agree with you, Chair Draper, and you, Commissioner Slater Carter, mainly because we don't have a viable successor agency. That said, Rob and Tim, if Daly City is possibly an option, can we at least start understanding what that successor agency process is with a city's police department? I am concerned about their I don't know their financial situation. So I don't know if they can absorb the expenses, but I just want to understand. I'm not for the dissolution. Let me make that very, very clear. I like Chair Draper's suggestion of working with Broadmoor. I think there's a potential, there's some opportunities. I think there are potential successes that can happen, but I was at the last meeting when the new commissioner was appointed, and so I just want to make some very interesting observations right now, if I may. And that goes with all of the letters that we've received from the public, including the Broadmoor Police Officers Association, and mainly actually. So I want to make it very clear, Chief Conley, that your supervisors are all of the board members, whether or not you agree with them. To the board members, you work as a board, right? Whether or not you agree with each other, you have to work together. And yeah, you can count the votes, but the more that you sit there and alienate each other, it's going to be problematic, because I agree with Ms. Hall that the voters, I think they don't trust what's happening, which is the reason I think that the parcel tax didn't get approved, right? But I don't know if they're willing to give up yet. I don't know. I don't have a read on that. So there needs, thank you. I'll make this. Okay. All right. So I think from a governance standpoint, there needs to be a lot of improvement, a lot. And I have been through this with one of the special district boards that I'm on. And being in elected office is like an arranged marriage in many sense of the word, because you don't get to choose, because your voters have chosen. Now, in John's case, you got appointed. And so I have concerns about that appointment process, but that's neither here nor there. I'm glad that y'all are both on the board right now. But at this point, I'm looking at governance, because you're only going to be as good as your governance, right? And whatever hostilities there are between the chief public administrator, which is Chief Conley, and the board, and between the board members, has got to stop. It doesn't make you look professional, and it actually makes the case for dissolution. Okay. So the only way to work this through is to work together. I would like to understand what kind of financial plan you have, knowing that you don't have an additional source of revenue and with the parcel tax, because you don't, right? Chief Conley says that, there are potential sources. I mean, and I'm going to respect what Harvey and Tiger said. I mean, Harvey, like, we've heard, I haven't been on this board as long as they have, but if they say that they've heard that same song and dance all the time, I'm going to believe them. This is, if you want to succeed, you have to take feedback that you don't like. And I know, because I've been in that situation. Okay. As Chair Draper mentioned, with the Harbor District. So the governance piece has to work. Otherwise, there's no reason for y'all to even exist as a special district and an elected board, because you're there representing the people. And that includes Chief Conley too. You're there representing the people, not the police officers association, not your staff. You are there to provide an essential service of law enforcement. And I think that's a privilege for y'all to be in that position. So please take that position, that mandate and mission very seriously. So once you have that there, then I think I'm happy to work with Anne if she wants to be a part of, I don't even know how that would work, Rob, structurally in terms of LAFCo's involvement. So, but I'm just saying governance has to be ethical, transparent, and accountable. And if that doesn't happen, then, I mean, that's the last straw for me, because you're not doing right by the people. So, Anne, I would love to talk about how we can work with Broadmoor to see, to take one last stance in trying to help them, knowing in my mind that there's not a viable successor agency at this time.
So I concur that the voter said change has to occur. The status quo is not okay. And I sort of felt through some of the letters that some people thought the status quo was still okay. It's the status quo is not okay. You've got to make changes. And I agree, you're all going to have to work together. The first thing is I was astounded when I heard an interview where one of the, I don't know if it's a current or former commissioner, described themselves as a volunteer. You're not volunteers. You're elected or appointed officials. And you have to act like that. The buck stops with you, and you have a fiduciary responsibility to those voters. You're the decision makers. And so I think the first thing is with yourselves, take responsibility. And I know both of you have been sitting through these hearings, you've heard them. You've got to take them and own them. And I've said that before. So I think that's step number one. And then getting the financial things in order. And for me, one of the transparencies that's important is staff reports. I do think the new websites, I could maneuver around it a lot easier, but written staff reports. I was a staff person for 38 years. And I had to have those staff reports available in advance, and different agencies have them in advance, different times. The one I worked for was 10 days in advance, and it was posted. Now, that's tough to do. Others are like 3 days in advance, not just the agenda, but the report. It's not fair to the public, and it's not fair to you guys, because getting just an oral staff report, that is tough to deal with, because you have to process and think about the information. I know how much time I spend reading these staff reports, and I read every word. It takes a long time. And so I really think staff reports that are posted on that website is really important. I was fascinated by the things that you all spend money on. I really think that there needs to be some different things in legal posting or legal noticing, because I really think that there's like many thousands of dollars. I started adding it up to go to legal posting. And I think it's really something else. So you need something in your accounting to tell the people, account codes, that it's really something else. And then I used to work for special districts that had a special parcel tax. And one of the things that we learned was that we, as staff people, we could educate, but we could not advocate. It was against the law to advocate. And so we did not form, because we felt we were told it was illegal, a committee. Somebody else had to form a committee. And it wasn't us doing it, it was somebody else that did it. And there were other advocate groups that were out there. So be real careful. And the other thing that, when I get back to the status quo, is that you've had a difficulty hearing information you don't like to hear. And I agree. And you just sort of have to, like I say, take a deep breath, say, we got to work through this, even though I don't like it. And I know it's potentially doable. So so active oversight to me was having those reports all the time, and then periodically some of us going and just observing, and also looking at those websites and seeing how changes are made. So that's what that means to me, but I'm open to a motion.
Rob, I mean, how much can LAFCo be involved with helping them? I just don't even know what the parameters
Yeah,
are.
I'm not talking about doing things.
Right,
I'm
right,
just
I agree.
observing
Yeah.
and reporting.
Yeah.
The way I take the direction, if that is the direction to staff, as currently out here, is that it'll be very similar to what we have done over the last year or so with updates to the commission, and again, a continued correspondence between LAFCo staff and then the Broadmoor Police Protection District staff, with, you know, if the commissioners so to choose on their own time, go to LAFCO or Broadmoor meetings, that's up to them. But that's that's how the direction, if that is the direction given, that's how I interpret it.
I think we do because we have
It can be direction to staff. It doesn't necessarily need to be the direct motion. This is,
okay, well, I'd like to, besides me, someone, because we have two different thoughts to propose something.
Let me just ask you, Ann, you were calling for a motion, and obviously we can choose to make them, put out a motion or not. But are you suggesting that we should consider putting out a motion not to dissolve right now? Or what would you like the motion to be? Because I would not like to dissolve right now, but I want to give staff direction to understand what the process is for a successor agency from a police department like Daly City, or South San Francisco or something. What does that process entail for them to be a successor agency? Because maybe there's not an extra thing to do versus, the sheriff's office or whatever. I just don't know.
if there's direction to staff to continue to provide oversight on this issue, we can provide updates at each LAFCo Commission meeting, and at the next LAFCo Commission meeting, if possible, staff can bring an analysis back on that particular question regarding governance options or service provision.
Okay.
I'd like to see in this report the pros and cons of going with the Daly City Police Department as a successor issue.
Or South San Francisco. It could be any one of them. That's
Or
the
any of
choices.
them, to be honest, but and even the sheriff's department, because that's
And
a
some of
very
those
fluid
questions-
situation. But I want to know both sides, not just one side.
In general, how we have addressed that issue, it was look at a very high level of what those governance options are, because the specifics of pros and cons or specific costs or staffing get into the territory of them providing an actual plan for service. And LAFCo doesn't have the ability to be able to do that at this moment in time, because there's not an application for us to conduct an analysis on, or direction from the commission to go down the path of preparing a plan for service as part of initiation of the dissolution. So the exact specific issues that you're referring to, that may not be as part of our analysis. It's probably going to be more of a higher level. These are potential options for the commission to consider and for the district to consider. And the district could do that analysis. They have the ability to do that. And we've recommended that in the past, of looking at staffing options, looking at contracting for services, looking at governance changes. Those things we can all discuss again. But for LAFCo to do that in and of ourselves, it would provide, we get challenged, and we don't have that direction just yet from the commission to do that.
Thank you.
Are you suggesting that it would take direction toward dissolution for you to provide that analysis?
If there was a specific question on LAFCO staff being asked of who specifically and how an agency could provide service, then yes, I do think that we would need direction as part of a plan for service, as part of a dissolution action.
So if that is the concern, then specifically the SB 938 dissolution process, I think would actually facilitate exactly what you're asking for, and would be, aside from the other dissolution process, the only way to provide what you're asking for, regardless of whether or not there is a consensus around dissolution. What I think should be brought back is anything that indicates what the genuine financial situation is, and also where they are in terms of implementing Brown Act. And by the way, if there is the ability to bring back analysis of how they're conducting themselves vis-a-vis Brown Act, if they do need help, I would love to see resources recommended as a part of that analysis.
And if I could just clarify my comments, it's the issue about plan for service is specific to the allocation of who the service provider is going to be and what those costs would. The question about understanding the district's finances, about understanding Brown Act issues, those types of things, those are all within LAFCO's purview now, and that we could bring an update to the commission. It's the additional analysis that we're looking at if there needs to be a plan for service about the specifics of who that provider could be and those costs. That would require additional analysis.
I appreciate that. And I think I specifically delineated that point was to Commissioner Chencarelli's point. If that's truly the desire, the way to do that is, I think, more ideally the SB 938 approach rather than the shorter approach that doesn't allow as much leeway to see growth.
Yeah, so your approach, the SB 938 approach is the 20-month approach too, right?
Approximately, yeah.
About that, yeah.
And I would imagine as we could see diligence and progress being made, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director, that presumably that process could be elongated accordingly. Did you hear the question?
I apologize. We were discussing how we were going to end the meeting in about 15 minutes.
Yes.
In about 15 minutes.
Well,
The question was,
and then we continue the rest.
if SB 938 and we see that there's progress being made, could you elongate the process past the 12 months, or how would that part work?
You could, or the commission could at that point terminate the proceedings to continue dissolution. But the SB 938 one has to be made in findings with specific findings, as the commission knows. So we'd have to make those findings on that resolution, and then if we'd have to have the MSR support those findings as well.
I'd be comfortable making findings in terms of financials and Brown Act compliance out the gate.
Yeah, but, okay, yeah, I would agree with that, but if,
Speaking of time, does somebody have a specific motion? Because we've got to take them.
I will move to bring back a resolution with findings for SB 938 vis-a-vis at least governance and financials. And I welcome anybody adding any other findings to that resolution if there is will for the motion.
so bringing it back at the LAFCO's next meeting.
As long as it takes the director.
Okay.
I'll second Tiger's motion.
Okay, I was about to say.
There's been a motion and a second to bring back a resolution under SB 938, and to come back whenever the director can, executive, can bring it back, and that we will notice people. Okay. Roll
Thank you.
call.
That was a motion by Commissioner Bigstick, seconded by Commissioner Warback. Commissioner Draper,
No.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
No.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
No.
Commissioner Bigstick,
Yeah.
Commissioner Warback.
Yes.
I recommend that that we give direction to the executive to return at the next meeting with updated financial information regarding the health of the organization. Do they have a fiscal plan? What is it? And also on Brown Act issues, and on the availability of, well, I use the word staff reports, information that's available to the public and to the commissioners prior to the meetings, because I think that's just so important for transparency, so that we understand sort of where they are. And that's my motion. So it's. I'll second that. All right. Roll call.
That was a motion by Commissioner Draper, seconded by Commissioner Slater Carter, Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Warback, Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Of course, yes.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. The motion passes.
Okay, now because we have 10 more minutes, or not even that, I recommend that, can we continue the remaining items to the next meeting? Or is there anything that we must do today?
The only item, because we have 10 minutes, is that I would recommend that we could take item 10B,
Yeah.
D, C, D, and E. Everything
Okay.
else, items that would include item 6, item 7, and item 9 would be continued to the January meeting, along
Okay.
with 10A.
10, all right, take it away. Oh, sorry. Yes, let's do this. I sort of forgot what they are. We have quite a number of commissioners who are leaving us. I'm so sorry, I will miss all of you. And we need a motion to approve these items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
She can second.
All right. And can I, roll call,
Thank you.
please?
That was a motion by Commissioner Chang Crowley, seconded by Commissioner Slater Carter.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bixby,
I will miss y'all.
Commissioner
We'll
Ravak,
see you later.
Yes.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes,
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Of course, yes.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
Hi, and I just want to say it's been an honor to work with Tiger and Harvey. So thank you for all the work that you've put into this, and with Warren too. And I didn't get to work with Ann, but I just think LAFCO has such an important function, and I'm just so proud to be by your side.
I will add, LAFCO has changed since I started following it about 25 or 30 years ago. And it has been with this LAFCO board, a major improvement. And I appreciate all the thought and work that has gone into it by staff and commissioners. Thank you.
And if I can, for staff, I would like to thank the four commissioners that are leaving, especially that are here tonight. Commissioner Orbach and Commissioner Bigstick for their involvement over the last few years. It has been staff's privilege to work with both you two and with Commissioner Slocum and Commissioner Schneider over the couple of years. So thank you again for your service to LAFCO, and best wishes.
Can I just make one quick comment, just so y'all know the outcome of the Cal LAFCO election? I think it's in the report, because I want to thank the commission for supporting my nomination. And so I did get elected to represent the special districts on the Cal LAFCO board for the coastal region. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Are we adjourned? Okay, we are adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
6:20. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your thoughtful consideration and to the members for coming back. Thanks for your service.